Hello and welcome back. My name is Venus Green. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to get into the March horoscopes for 2025, and this is going to be about a month of reflection, of recalibration, and of preparation. Now, with both Venus and Mercury stationing retrograde in the sign of Aries, we also have a lunar eclipse in Virgo, and we have this powerful solar eclipse that's happening in Aries. So we're in this period of refining our goals, of reassessing our values, and of laying the groundwork so that the next big steps in our personal and our collective evolution can come through. Now, if you would like a personalized reading with me, you can find me on Venus's green spot under the services section. As a reminder, I want to tell you that it's important that you listen to these horoscopes for your rising sign, as that is how they're written. That's going to give you the best indication of what's happening overall in your life and how you're going to see these things unfolding in your life. Secondarily, you can listen to your sun sign, as that might give you an idea of what's happening with you in your public life, what's happening in your career, or maybe what's happening with you at the core. You could also listen for your moon sign, as that might be some indication of what's happening with you emotionally. So let's get into the overall themes of the month. This is going to be a month for revising the past in order to prepare for our future. Now, with both Venus and Mercury stationing retrograde in Aries, this isn't really a time to be rushing forward with anything, right? This is going to be a time about refining what it is that we truly desire and reassessing our value system. Now, the lunar eclipse in Virgo is on March 14th. That is going to be highlighting where it is that we need to create more balance between practicality and self-agency. And then we have that solar eclipse on the 29th at the end of the month. That's going to be the one that sort of pushes us towards some sort of bold new beginning. One of the most significant shifts that happens this month is Neptune transiting Aries. So he's going to leave Pisces, definitely going to hit that 29-degree mark, which we know is the anaretic degree, right? So finishing up, finalizing what he's doing in the sign of Pisces, and then moving into Aries on the 30th. So this is going to mark the end of that 14-year cycle in Pisces, right? This is a major collective energy shift, and it's moving us from this dreamy sort of idealism into some sort of action-oriented spirituality. Now, we're going to get into that by rising sign in detail, but I want to start with the Venus and Mercury retrograde in Aries. So Venus is going to station retrograde at the first of the month, right at the beginning here, and that'll be followed by Mercury moving retrograde on March 15th. So both of these retrogrades are really challenging us to reassess our relationships, our financial priorities, and our personal values, right? It's going to be having us think about and reflect on, are we pursuing what it is that we truly want, or are we chasing some level of validation, right? Am I making the decisions and moving forward in the way that I think is best for me based on what I truly desire, or am I doing what other people or external circumstances expect of me, right? And those things might be truly aligned, but they may not be. We also might be thinking about, do the financial choices that we make reflect our deepest priorities, right? Again, Venus being retrograde has us thinking about our money and our relationships. And of course, are we honoring our personal desires? Are we making too many compromises in our life? That's Aries really telling us. Aries is a sign of I am, right? Am I doing the things that I most desire with my time here on this planet? So rather than trying to push forward with anything, this is going to be a really good use of your time. Is going to be reflecting, refining, preparing for some sort of forward motion that's going to happen once the planets go direct in April. Now we have the lunar eclipse that happens in Virgo on the 14th of the month. This eclipse is going to be activating themes of efficiency, structure, and releasing what it is that no longer serves us. So this eclipse is going to highlight where it is that we need to refine our habits, where we need to clear out any unnecessary obligations, and create some space for more aligned pursuits. Now, this might look like a work-related situation that comes to some sort of completion, right? It could also be a work-related situation that requires a level of restructuring. It could be about health and wellness habits that might need to be readdressed in our lives. It could also be emotional patterns that are rooted in some sort of perfectionism, right? Some sort of over responsibility to commit to those things. Those might be coming up to the surface to be ready to release at this time. This lunar eclipse in Virgo is really bringing some closure to these themes around health, work, and daily responsibilities. And it's urging us to refine our approach to practical matters. Then that solar eclipse is later going to shift our focus toward self-assertion and personal identity, right? This Virgo eclipse is more about clearing out those inefficiencies as a way of really stepping into a new chapter in our lives. Now, the solar eclipse in Aries is a more powerful moment, right? It's initiation, but it's going to come after that period of reflection. So this eclipse in Aries is linked back to the October 2024 Libra eclipse that we had, right? It's marking the turning point of the themes that were related to identity, independence, and courage. So things that come up around the solar eclipse are likely to be new opportunities that emerge for us, right? Now, the clarity around those things is going to build over time, but this is sort of the initiation, if you will. It's the spark that gets that started. There could be shifts in self-image, right? Or personal goals that become apparent to us. It also is a time to set some intentions for some personal leadership and some authority in terms of our life. Now, with Venus and Mercury still sort of recovering from their retrogrades at this point, the best approach is going to be embracing change, but not to make any sort of permanent decisions, right? It's going to be important to remain patient, right? The momentum is going to pick up when we move into April. And then we want to take a look at Neptune too, right? Neptune's entrance into Aries is really going to mark this collective turning point, one that's going to unfold, right, over the next 14 years. This is a slow-moving planet. He is the planet of illusion, of disillusion, of dreams, creativity, but also dissolving. So we're moving from this period of passive dreaming, which is more Pisces, into this era of active vision building. That's what Aries is about. What we might see happening on the collective level is spirituality is going to become more sort of action driven, right? Manifestation is going to require us to move. Creative expression might also take on a more sort of courageous and individualistic tone. And then the focus is going to shift from one of that feels more like surrender to one of self-empowerment. Well, this transition is going to encourage us to step boldly into our unique path, right? It's going to ask us to trust in our instincts rather than wait for some level of external validation, right? If somebody else saying, yes, that's what you should be doing, or agreeing with your path, we're not going to be looking for that anymore. Now, on my Instagram or my Facebook, if you follow me in either of those places, I did at the end of February post a Sekhmet personal ritual. So if you are not familiar with who Sekhmet is, there's a nice little overview of what she's about. And I really like a personal ritual as a way of sort of going inward, connecting with my intuition, and helping me to listen more to my higher self as a way of feeling empowered and making the right decisions for me versus listening to the external expectations that are placed on me. Not that we can, forego those altogether, right? There is some level of that, but this is about really connecting with yourself and focusing on what is best for you and how to move forward in that direction. And I find a personal ritual, I love to do them, but again, it helps me to sort of center and ground with what it is that I truly desire. And so I would offer you that as a recommendation. That there's a direct link from my Instagram and my Facebook to that ritual on my website. You can also just go to my website and go to the ritual section. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about Neptune and how to navigate this energy for the month of March, right? So If you've ever heard the term as within, so without, again, this ties back to my segment ritual. The way that we perceive and feel about ourselves on the inside is really reflected in the world around us. That's sort of what that statement means, right? So if you don't love, respect, and believe in yourself, it's really difficult to expect others to see those in you, right? It's also really difficult to attract circumstances that align with your highest good, right? Because you have to believe that you are worthy of those things. You have to take a look at your limiting beliefs and how to sort of wash those out and replace them with what it is that you do believe about yourself, what it is that you want to manifest in your life. So this is a month that's really going to ask us to go inward before we start to seek any kind of external validation. Now, if you have been feeling like you are a little bit stuck, right? Maybe uncertain, or like things just aren't really moving fast enough, and this is definitely going to be a month where things feel really slow. Trust that this is just temporary, right? March is the month of preparation. It's not the month of initiation. Good time to write things down, good time to reflect, but the best way to navigate this energy is going to be just that. Reflect on your past choices. What is still working for you? What is it that you might need to change about your life, right? Your journey so far is what has shaped you. And this is going to be a month that provides you some opportunity to honor your growth, but also to release what it is that's no longer aligned. Refining your goals rather than trying to rush into sort of new commitments, right? That's sometimes we feel that when we're in eclipse season, right? It's like this thing comes up and I feel like I have to do it. Maybe it's a better time to just plan, right? Just because movement feels really slow doesn't necessarily mean that progress isn't happening. You have to trust in the process as it unfolds, right? Internal shifts that you make now are going to manifest externally in due time. Definitely take some time to prioritize your inner work, right? Work on your self-worth. Work on your mindset shifts. Again, limiting beliefs is what I'm talking about here. And taking the time to get some emotional clarity. Those are going to be the things that really set the foundation for you to see external growth. When we truly believe in ourselves and our relationships, our finances, those opportunities begin to reflect that clarity that we have. And I would also say that waiting until April for any major financial or relational decisions is going to be the best use of your time, right? Only because during retrograde, especially Venus, especially Mercury, we might feel differently about those things once the planets move direct again, right? So use this as a time to process, to reassess, and to ensure that you are acting from a place of empowerment rather than urgency. Now, if we want to talk just a little bit about how we're all going to feel this energy the most, if you are a cardinal sign, here I'm speaking about rising signs. Cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. The Aries solar eclipse and that Venus Mercury retrograde are going to directly impact themes of identity, of relationships, of career, and personal direction for you. So if you have major planets or angles, I'm talking sun, ascendant, moon, these are going to be the signs that really expect a period of some deep self-reflection and some recalibration because you're having major life shifts this month, right? For Virgo and Pisces placements, the Virgo lunar eclipse is going to bring a turning point in terms of work, of health, of your personal habits, right? Pisces placements are going to feel this strongly due to their connection with Neptune's sort of final movements in their sign, right? It's going to be reaching that 29-degree mark. That's always a critical moment, right? And then that move into a very drastically different sign, going from water to fire, right? Passive to active. It's going to mark the end of this personal cycle and the beginning of a new era, one that's of self-assertion. For the mutable signs, this is Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. The lunar eclipse in Virgo and the Mercury retrograde, those are all going to be influencing your thought processes. The mutable signs are likely to experience shifts in mindset, in their belief system, and also in their communication patterns. And then for the fixed signs, this is Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. While you're not really directly in the eclipse path, the fixed signs are still going to feel this in terms of broader shifts, right? Particularly through your external pressures, right? Those things that push you outside of your comfort zone, if you will, which is generally an area where we don't like to be. So for Taurus and Scorpio, you might experience some changes in financial matters. For Leo and Aquarius, this might be navigating some shifts in terms of your home life or your career stability. Now, for everyone, I do want to say, again, it's best to use this time to do the reflect, review, revise. But if you feel like you must make some decisions this month or move forward with some level of action, I do want to call out just a few days that I think might be better for that in terms of others. On March 8th, we're going to have Sun trine Mars. So this could be a good day for some personal motivation. It might be a good day for clearing out some mental blocks, maybe setting some internal goals, right? Again, don't have to take action, but maybe you can set some goals about what it is you want to manifest in your life later this year. From March 1st through March 25th, we are going to have Sun, Venus, and Mercury all sextiling Pluto, right? So this could be a transformative period for gaining some sort of personal clarity or maybe doing some sort of strategic planning. And then on the 30th, we're going to have a little bit of clarity arise. Again, it's not the full picture, but we're going to have some clarity. Could be some realizations about your personal identity or your purpose, right? But it's still really best to wait until April before you start to act on those things. So for the month of March, this is really deeply introspective, right? But it's still a transformative month, right? It's going to feel really slow. The time is just going to be moving slowly. And so this is going to be a critical phase of doing some preparation work, of doing some reflection, of refining your direction overall. So if you have been questioning your path, you're going to want to trust that there is some clarity on the horizon, right? Use this as a month to revisit your past intentions, to reconnect with your values, to prepare for this fresh start that we're all going to be feeling in April. All right. So that's the overview. We're going to go a little bit deeper by rising sign. So let's get into that. All right. If you are Aries rising, then this is going to be a really powerful month for some self-reinvention, right? It's personal transformation for you, and it's deeply karmic. So this isn't just any eclipse season, right? Because it's the final chapter of that Aries Libra cycle that we've been having. So this solar eclipse ties back to the last solar eclipse. Don't forget that. So it's going to be bringing about some fated changes related to your identity, your relationships, your career, or your personal path. We've got Venus and Mercury both stationing retrograde in Aries, and there is a solar eclipse also in your sign. So this is going to be a time for you to take a step back, to reflect on your journey since 2023, and really to prepare for a fresh new direction happening in April or beginning in April. So the month is really going to be about breakthroughs, right? But with Mercury and Venus retrograde, patience is going to be your key, right? Hold on to that. Keep that in the forefront of your mind. Now, your identity, your personal goals, and the way that you show up in the world are all undergoing some major changes. The Aries solar eclipse on the 29th is going to be a major reset moment for you, right? Venus going retrograde in Aries is about partnerships that are under review. And Mercury going retrograde in Aries, it's also going to move back into Pisces. That's going to bring back some old themes for some closure. The Virgo lunar eclipse on the 14th is highlighting your work-life balance. So you can expect some echoes back from October of 2024, that Libra eclipse that happened. there are going to be some events from last fall that are going to resurface at the time of this solar eclipse. This is going to be a time to step into your personal power, but it's more about refining your strategy before you start charging ahead, which I know you love to do. Now, if we take a look at your ruling planet, Mars is your ruling planet. Just went direct at the end of February on the 24th at 17 degrees of Cancer, right? So this is good for you, right? When your ruling planet is moving forward, you feel better. Now, it's had months of time for you to do some internal reflection, right? Probably a lot of delays have come up for you, but now you're regaining some of your drive and you're ready to sort of move forward in terms of personal or domestic matters. This is going to set the stage for you to act decisively, but not necessarily in March, right? As a reminder, Mars in Cancer is not always the easiest of placements, right? Especially for Aries energy, because it can bring about some emotional frustration, some defensiveness. So if you feel moody, if you're feeling stuck, the best course of action for you is going to be to use physical movement, right? You can take a look at setting some emotional boundaries if that's causing frustration, and maybe even channeling your energy into some sort of home project or family matters. But making use of your physical energy is going to help you the most. If we take a look at the Venus retrograde, that's happening also in your first house. So it's self-identity and appearance, right? And it's asking you to refine your personal values, your desires, and probably even your relationships. So this is going to be some opportune time for you to reassess what it is that you want and how you show up in the world, right? Who are you beyond your relationships? How is it that you define self-worth, especially without external validation? Past relationships are likely to resurface during this time. There could be some unfinished business with exes or friendships, right? Could be some unresolved emotional patterns that come up for review. Your self-worth is really evolving. So you might be rethinking your style. You might be rethinking your personal image. It could even be how it is that you show up in your relationships, right? But this is going to be an opportune time for you to experiment, to reflect, and to refine without making any sort of permanent changes. That's my recommendation anyway. Now, Venus is going to conjunct the Sun at the end of March, so it'll be illuminating some hidden relationship dynamics and probably some self-worth lessons that you've learned. Now, this is going to be a good time that will serve as a turning point, right? It's offering you some clarity on how you can move forward in your love and finances. But since Venus is still retrograde, that clarity is probably going to feel internal rather than external. And so any big decisions regarding love and finances should really wait until Venus is direct. Now, we also have Mercury stationing retrograde in your sign as well. So he'll be moving, his retrograde starts on the 15th, and by the 29th, he'll be moving back into Pisces, which is your 12th house. So this is going to be highlighting some personal reflection and some spiritual insights for you. You might be revisiting some old conversations or ideas, particularly involving self-improvement, maybe personal branding. It could even be about health matters for you. Now, anything that has been feeling stalled, especially in early March, you can expect to revisit those themes at the end of the month, right? Which is why we were saying sort of wait and use this as a period of reflection rather than decisions, right? Watch for what sort of maybe impulsive communications are coming up or happening at this time. Mercury retrograde in Aries can really lead to frustration and misunderstandings, especially in the realm of communication. So all month long, think before you speak, right? And be clear with your intentions. That is for everybody, but especially for for Aries. Mercury is also going to conjunct the Sun later in the month. So this will be bringing some visual realizations about how it is that you communicate, how it is that you express your ideas. But because Mercury is retrograde, patience, patience, patience. That's what's needed before you make any sort of decisive action, right? Pay attention to the insights that are coming through around this time, throughout the month, really, because these ideas are really going to become clearer once Mercury starts to move direct. The lunar eclipse that happens in Virgo on the 14th is going to occur in your 6th house. This is the house of work, health, and daily routine. So this is really going to be a turning point in how you structure your daily life. It's your balance of work and wellness and how you manage your responsibilities. There could be a major project at work that is ending or shifting at this time. Health and wellness are probably going to take priority for you. You might need to adjust your routine, right? You could have some unhealthy habits maybe that you need to let go of, or some healthier habits that you need to pick up. Whatever is draining your energy, those are the things that you need to take a look at restructuring. And definitely time management is going to be your key, right? Watch out for burning yourself out. Do your best to try to balance your workload, right? This is a time to let go of any outdated work routines and to really focus on creating a healthier balance between how you accomplish your productivity and the amount of time that you spend for rest. Now, the solar eclipse is going to happen on the 29th of March. And this is, again, it's that final eclipse on this axis of Aries, Libra. So there won't be another eclipse here for a decade, right? This is going to be a new beginning for you in terms of your personal identity and your life direction. So something that began in your relationships about 6 months ago at that Libra eclipse in October is going to come full circle. This is going to be the eclipse that marks the shift in how it is that you present yourself, maybe how your level of self-confidence, and how it is that you take charge of your life. Now, because this eclipse is part of a larger story, it's important to think about all of the activity that's happening at around 9-10 degrees of Aries. So the Venus Mercury retrograde start at 9-10 degrees of Aries. This solar eclipse happens at this point in your chart. This solar eclipse is also opposing that eclipse from October. Then we have Neptune, which is moving into Aries. And following that will be Saturn. So let's take a look at what does this story really mean for you. Well, Neptune is going to enter Aries first before Saturn, and it's going to be bringing you this wave of inspiration, some sort of vision, right? Some idealism about your personal reinvention, if you will. Neptune is the planet that dissolves, right? It's the planet of illusion, of delusion. And while it's dreamy and creative and idealistic, it's important to use the time to dream big about yourself, but know that come this time next year, so spring of 2026, Saturn is going to be reaching this point. So over this next year, the eclipse is sort of starting this point, right? It's the spark that sort of starts this new sort of reinvention of yourself, if you will. Now, Neptune's going to come in and help you create some dreams around that. But over this year and into spring of next year, Saturn is going to be reaching this point. So what does Saturn do? He says, well, we need structure and stability around this, right? So Saturn is going to be reinforcing those themes of responsibility, of self-mastery, and long-term commitments. So Neptune is going to inspire you to dream big about your future identity, but Saturn is later going to require you to really ground those dreams into some kind of reality, right? So this identity shift that you experience now is going to feel really boundless, right? And it might need some level of structure. Not important to worry about that right now, right? Use this time to sort of know that you are building up to that come next year. Think about the long game here. What kind of leader do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to become? What visions really excite you? This is that spark, this solar eclipse, right? Saturn is going to come in and help you cement those things, right? It's going to require a lot of work and responsibility out of you, but it's going to help you turn that into a dream, or help you turn that dream into reality. Now, because of all the retrogrades, it's not best to be making any permanent decisions, right? Definitely not with how you look with your hair, what you're wearing, who you are in a relationship with. You make your own decisions, of course. These are my recommendations. If for some reason you feel like you have to take action this month, I do want to share just a few days that I think are best for doing that. So March 8th, you have the Sun trine Mars. So this is going to be some level of emotional strength, right? Some sort of peak in your confidence. It could be a good time for you to initiate an internal change. From March 21st through the 25th, you're going to have Sun, Venus, and Mercury all sextiling Pluto. This could be a really powerful time for some sort of breakthrough in personal transformation, right? Some sort of deep self-work that you want to begin. And then on the 30th of the month, we'll have a little bit of clarity move through, right? Because Mercury and Venus are still in retrograde. They're nearing their completion. So you could have some insights come together. But it's best to use this as a time of reviewing your plans rather than taking some sort of action, right? That's more for April, if you will. So for you, March is going to be really a life-changing month, right? You're stepping into a new version of yourself, but this is a transformation that's going to require some patience and some self-awareness from you. Mercury and Venus are retrograde, so it's most important to reflect before you make any sort of bold moves. You can expect some themes from October of 2024 to return for some kind of resolution or closure. This could be around relationships. It could be around your self-image. It could be some sort of personal independence, right? Those things are all undergoing some karmic shifts for you. Trust in the process and use this time to refine your vision for the future. Good luck to you, Aries. If you are a Taurus rising, March is a deeply introspective month. It's bringing some major shifts in your spiritual, your subconscious, and your personal identity realms. Now, with Venus and Mercury both stationing retrograde in Aries, plus you have this powerful solar eclipse, all of that's happening in your 12th house. So you're really being called to release old baggage, to break some subconscious patterns, and take some time to prepare for a major personal reset. This month, some deep internal work is going to be necessary before you begin stepping into any bold new chapter that's really going to start to unfold in April and beyond. So you may feel a strong pull towards seclusion, right? Taking some time to yourself, have some opportunity to reflect and really take a look at, are you having some sort of spiritual awakening, right? As some hidden truths might be coming to light for you with all of this energy happening in your 12th house. So if you've been feeling a little bit disconnected, possibly uncertain about how it is that you want to move forward, you're going to want to trust that this process is making some space for a stronger but a more aligned version of yourself. So for March, you really want to focus on clearing out the past and preparing for sort of a rebirth for yourself. That Aries solar eclipse on the 29th is going to initiate a cycle of deep transformation. But first, you're going to need to release some limiting beliefs that you hold, most likely. You're going to be going through a karmic cycle, right? So anything that's really holding you back is going to be what you want to focus on during your time of seclusion or reflection. And with Venus being retrograde in Aries also, you might have some unresolved emotional wounds that surface during the month. And of course, Mercury is also retrograde in Aries, right? All of this is happening in your 12th house. So this is going to encourage some deep reflection on your subconscious patterns. In the middle of the month, we're going to have that Virgo eclipse on the 14th. So that's going to highlight some themes of creativity, self-expression, and healing for you. It's going to be providing some important insights before that Aries solar eclipse helps you to clear out space for the next phase of your evolution. Now, this month is likely to feel quiet externally, right? Because you're taking the time to go inward. But internally, you are going to feel that the shifts are probably profound. So you're on the edge, really, of this powerful reinvention that you're working through. And the work that you do now is really going to help you set the foundation for a major reset once the sun begins to move into Taurus. Now, if we take a look at your ruling planet, which is Venus, Again, she is retrograde starting in Aries, and she's going to move back into Pisces. So this is going to be especially significant for you. Venus stations retrograde on the 1st at 9 degrees in your 12th house. Again, the house of subconscious, of your past life karma and your spiritual closure. So you might feel the need for some more alone time during the month. You might be experiencing some vivid dreams. You might also encounter people from your past who really help to bring you some emotional closure. For some of you, this could be about hidden fears, right? Or subconscious patterns around your self-worth, and possibly some relationship issues might resurface. And this is going to be a powerful time to reflect on what your limiting beliefs are, right? What is a limiting belief? Remember when you were young and your parents told you, or maybe some other adult told you, if you say you can't, then you can't, right? That's what a limiting belief is. If you can't see it, feel it inside for yourself, then it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to bring out into the world. So maybe you have some outdated relationship patterns, right? Maybe you have some outdated, some other limiting beliefs, maybe around finances. But what's really been a repeating theme in your life, those are going to be the things that you're going to want to take notice of and take a look at possibly releasing. Now, Venus is going to be forming a conjunction with the Sun at the end of March. So this is probably going to bring you some clarity about your spiritual path, possibly about your self-worth. Could also be about what it is that you need to let go of before you're able to step into this new phase of your life. Now, of course, since Venus is still retrograde for the month, you're going to want to allow those revelations to sort of unfold without really rushing into any action. So first step is to let go, right? And then let those answers come to you in April. Now, if we take a look at Mercury, Mercury also begins its retrograde in Aries, which is your 12th house, and that is on March 15th. And it's going to move back into Pisces, which is your 11th house, and that happens on the 29th of March. So this is really a deeply introspective retrograde for you, right? It's requiring you to look inward before you make any external decisions. Now, for some of you, this may feel like you are disconnected from your social circles, right? Or you could be experiencing some level of misunderstandings or frustrations within your friendships or within your network groups. For others of you, this could be old memories coming back. It could be past conversations resurfacing. It could even be some childhood experiences that come up for reevaluation at this time. And then, of course, for some of you, it's going to be about spiritual insights, right, that are really heightened during this time. So if that's happening for you, I, again, would encourage you to be journaling, taking a look at maybe getting into some therapy or working through some things with a therapist, if that's something you're already doing, right? Any meditative practices are really going to be incredibly helpful during this time. Now, just like Venus, Mercury is also going to come into a conjunction with the Sun at the end of the month. So this could be some realizations about your inner world and maybe your hidden motivations. So this might bring a sudden clarity about some recurring emotional pattern or maybe some hidden truth that you hadn't really fully acknowledged before. So again, because Mercury is going to be in retrograde, the clarity is going to fully emerge once Mercury moves direct in April. Now, if we take a look at the lunar eclipse that's happening in Virgo, that is going to be on March 14th. And for you, this is going to be like a creative awakening. Right? It's going to be activating your 5th house of creativity, of romance, children, and self-expression. So this eclipse is going to bring some kind of culmination or some sort of breakthrough in creative projects, maybe with love affairs, possibly with personal joy. So for some of you, this might be a creative project reaches completion, right? Or maybe gains some level of recognition for you at this time. Now, romantic situations could also be coming to a head at this point, right? Relationships tend to be facing either some sort of level of involvement or possibly dissolving during these types of alignments. And for some of you, you may just realize where you've really been holding yourself back in terms of self-expression, right? You may find the courage to shine during this time, and that's also a great thing. Now, some themes around children or possibly fertility might arise as well as this is happening in your 5th house. So really, this Virgo lunar eclipse is going to be highlighting where you might need to refine your creative pursuits, where you might need to refine your hobbies, or some sort of sense of personal fulfillment, right? It may bring some closure to a project, right? Or it could also be revealing an important realization about how it is that you express yourself. But this is a moment that is really going to be encouraging you to ensure that what brings you joy is also something that you value and you prioritize in your life. Then if we take a look at the solar eclipse, also happening in Aries, this is on the 29th of March. And this eclipse is going to be marking a major turning point in your 12th house of endings, of spirituality, and of subconscious healing. So this eclipse is going to be directly tied back to that October 2nd, 2024 Libra eclipse that we had, right? It's closing out a cycle and it's initiating a profound new one for you. So for some of you, this might be your dreams and your intuition are going to be stronger than ever during this period, right? So pay attention to any signs that you see coming from the universe. If you've been carrying or holding on to some past burdens, this eclipse is likely going to signal the final chapter of that cycle. So I would take a look at what are those past burdens and patterns that you've been carrying. What are your limiting beliefs? And this is also going to be a moment for you to surrender and to trust that by letting go, you really are able to make space for a new beginning. Now, this eclipse is also going to be marking the beginning of a longer journey because it'll be unfolding over the next year or two. Now, Neptune is going to be moving into Aries on March 30th. So this will begin to dissolve any outdated limitations, and it's really helping you to expand your inner vision, right? It's urging you to redefine what stability and security truly means for you. Well, this is going to be a period of deep reflection on how your subconscious beliefs shape your financial and your material world. Then in April of 2026, Saturn's going to be moving into this degree, 9 degrees of Aries. And this is really going to help you to anchor those realizations into some sort of tangible commitment, right? At this point, what feels like it's an emerging spiritual awareness is going to become a more structured path as you move forward, right? It's going to be requiring you to take some disciplined action toward your financial and your emotional independence. Now, if you just stop and think for a minute, we have Mercury stationing retrograde at 9 degrees and we have Venus stationing retrograde at 10 degrees. So all of this is happening around the same degree. This degree is getting a lot of activation. So if you have anything in the first decan of Aries, right, 0 to 10 degrees, this is really going to have a bigger impact on you. So let's take a look at just really what does the unfoldment of Neptune and Saturn look like in terms of shaping your future. So Neptune's going to move into Aries at the end of the month, right? It's going to be really making you dream big about your future, right? But things are going to feel like they're really ungrounded. They're really uncertain in the very beginning. That's kind of what Neptune does, right? He's the planet of illusion and delusion and fog. He makes things not so very clear for us, right? But he sort of breaks down structures. And what is Saturn? Saturn is the planet that helps us build up structure and put boundaries around things, put a foundation on those things. So when Saturn moves into Aries, it's not going to be until spring of 2026, but he's going to be bringing in that reality check for you, asking you to turn those dreams that you have into some sort of structured plan. And then you're going to want to use this time to release any past limitations, right? Anything that you can envision for your future is going to first start in your mind. You have to believe that you can do it, right? Saturn will then come in later and help you provide the structure to build those dreams that you're looking for. So again, A lot of activation in Aries. A lot of time this month really is going to need to be spent on reflecting, looking inward, and starting to maybe just put down on paper what you might want to see in your future, right? We're going to hold off as best we can on taking action. But if you do feel like that there's action that you must take this month, I do want to call out what I feel like are the best days to do that. So March 8th, we're going to have the Sun trine Mars, right? This would be an ideal time for some deep emotional healing and maybe taking a look at releasing any past burdens. From the 21st to the 25th of March, we're going to have Sun, Venus, and Mercury all making a sextile to Pluto. So this could look like some profound insights that surface for you, right? Some bright ideas, right? This is going to be a really good time for taking a look at what's coming through as a spiritual breakthrough for you. And then on the 30th of the month, we might have some clarity move in, right? This is where the fog is going to begin to lift as Mercury and Venus retrograde near their completion. But again, it's most important to reflect and not to rush forward. So for you, Taurus, 2025 is a really transformational month, right? You are looking at closing out one chapter and preparing for this profound rebirth, right? Something that's coming that will be unfolding in the coming months. This is also going to be a time for some deep spiritual work, right? Do some self-reflection, work on or focus on your inner healing, right? You're going to want to trust that the insights and the closures that are happening now are allowing you to make space for this new version of yourself that is beginning to emerge. So we have to remember that when we surrender what it is that no longer serves us, we are creating space for something greater. And that next chapter is going to be beginning soon. So you're going to want to trust that you are exactly where you're supposed to be right now. Good luck to you, Taurus. Now, if we take a look at Gemini rising, for you, this month is about community shifts, about networking opportunities, and really some powerful personal growth. Well, Venus and Mercury are both stationing retrograde in Aries. And then we also have that solar eclipse happening in Aries. So that's all your 11th house, the house of friendships, long-term goals, and social connections. So you're really being called to reevaluate your social circles, to take a look at your collaborative efforts, and to have a look at the bigger vision that you have for your life. Now, this month is going to be about sorting through your connections, identifying which friendships and alliances are truly supportive to you, and really deciding where it is that you want to invest your energy as you move forward. Now, while some relationships might be tested during this time, that's very likely to happen. This is also a period for some breakthroughs in your ability to manifest your dreams. However, I'm reminding everyone that this is not really a month for rushing into any sort of new commitments, right? This is a time to do some reflection and some refinement, because that's going to be the key to how we move forward. Now, March is about reassessing your social networks, right? It's about long-term aspirations and your group affiliations. And the solar eclipse that happens on the 29th is going to initiate a cycle of major shifts in your friendships, with your alliances, and probably with your community engagement. Or you got Venus also retrograde in Aries, so past connections might be resurfacing for you. And then Mercury is also going to station retrograde in Aries, and you will likely be rethinking your long-term goals and your professional affiliations. And then we also have the Virgo eclipse that happens on the 14th. So this eclipse is going to be highlighting themes of family, of home, and emotional foundations for you. It's really helping you to refine what security means for you and how that connects to the social circles that you engage with. Well, this is going to be a really pivotal time for your ability to communicate, to network, and to collaborate, right? Those things are evolving for you. And March is really going to show you who belongs in your life moving forward. Now, I do want to say that it's also a time for balancing external demands with personal needs, right? If your social world feels really overwhelming at this time, this would be a really good time to take a step back and to reassess where your energy is best spent. Now, if we take a look at your ruling planet, which is Mercury, right? Mercury is going to be retrograde. It's going to be starting retrograde in Aries, and it'll be moving back into Pisces. So for you as your ruling planet, that's especially important, right? Mercury is going to station retrograde on the 15th at 9 degrees of Aries. So definitely I would take a look at my chart and see if you have any personal planets or angles at that degree. Probably anywhere from 8 to 10 degrees, right? Well, probably anywhere from 7 to 11 because we have a lot of activation around this point. But this is your 11th house of friendships, communities, and future goals. So you might be reconnecting with old friends during this time. You might be reconnecting with some past collaborators that you once worked with. You could also be revisiting some long ago or long forgotten dreams as well. It's important to be cautious of miscommunications, especially within group settings, because Mercury is your ruling planet, right? And is the planet of communication. So I would recommend double checking any plans, and definitely before signing any contracts, I would be taking, laser focus to those things before you actually make any commitments. Now, this is definitely a time to reflect on whether your long-term goals are still really aligned with your current desires. So if you've made any major shifts in the last month or so, this is going to be the time to sort of reflect on those. Now, Mercury is going to be moving back into Pisces on the 29th. So that's going to take your focus from your 11th house to your 10th house, the house of career and public reputation. So this might look like career plans that need some revision at this time, right? You definitely want to expect some delays, right? Or possibly expect to have some adjustments needed to your professional path. You might also have some authority figures that might be communicating unclearly at this time. You may have some misleading conversations, misleading messages that come up. So what I would say is to just wait for more information before you make any sort of major career moves. Definitely use this period for some deep strategy work rather than launching into anything new. This entire month is really retrograde territory, right? And with eclipses happening, we may feel like we want to take action, move forward with something, but I definitely recommend holding on those. Now, just like Venus, Mercury is going to make a conjunction with the Sun at the end of this month. So this is likely going to offer you some clarity around your friendships, maybe with your goals, possibly with your professional visibility. But Mercury is still retrograde, right? So full clarity isn't really going to emerge until Mercury starts to move forward, direct motion in April. If we take a look at the Venus retrograde, this is happening in your 11th house of friendships and community, right? It starts right at the beginning of the month on the 1st, and it starts retrograde at 10 degrees of Aries. So this might look like some past friendships or collaborations that could be returning to you during this time, right? This would be an opportunity to look for some healing or maybe some closure around those things again, rather than starting anything new. Now, you may be reassessing what it is that you truly value in your friendships and your social dynamics at this time too, right? And for some of you, it could be financial or business partnerships that really are going to require some level of renegotiation. Now, Venus is going to be forming that conjunction with the Sun at the end of March. So again, an opportunity to have some clarity around which friendships or maybe social endeavors are really aligned with your values at this time. Again, because Venus is retrograde, we're going to avoid making any final commitments or decisions until April for the best course of action, right? Now, on the 14th of the month, we have the lunar eclipse in Virgo. So this is going to be activating your 4th house of home, family, and emotional security. So this eclipse is probably going to bring some culmination or turning point to personal matters that are related to home life or some emotional well-being. Now, for some of you, this could look like a move. It could be about renovation, or it could be a change in your living situation that could be unfolding at this time. For others of you, it might be family dynamics that are shifting at this time, right? Something unresolved is probably going to come to light and be looking for some level of closure. Of course, this is a time where you may gain some deeper clarity about where or possibly with whom it is that you truly feel at home with. So this eclipse is really going to be helping you gain some clarity about your inner emotional world, which in turn then influences the kinds of friendships and the networks that you want to cultivate in your future. Now, if we have a look at the solar eclipse that happens on the 29th, the solar eclipse in Aries is really going to be marking a shift in your 11th house of community, networks, and aspirations. So this eclipse is tied back to that October 2024 Libra eclipse that we had. This is going to be bringing some closure to past cycles and really opening doors for social and possibly professional collaborations for you. This might look like new friendships or alliances that emerge during this time. You're going to want to pay attention to who it is that enters your life around this time. It might also be old friendships or connections that resurface, right? This could be prompting some level of reflection on whether those people or those connections are really still aligned with your growth. And definitely long-term goals that you set in the past might need to be reflected on or might need some revision, right? They might need a fresh approach in order to move forward with those things. Now, something to keep in mind is that this eclipse is really the beginning of a longer sort of unfolding story over the next couple of years. So Neptune is going to be entering Aries on the 30th of March. And this is going to start to dissolve any outdated social connections and really start to expand your vision of community, of friendships, and your role in collective movements. So you might feel a desire to connect with some like-minded individuals, those who align with your ideals and your long-term aspirations. However, Neptune also is very good at blurring the boundaries for us. So it's going to be really essential for you to discern which alliances truly support your growth versus those that just suck or drain your energy. Now, in spring of 2026, Saturn is going to be reaching 9 degrees of Aries. And so the reason I say this is a larger story is because the Venus and Mercury Retrograde started around 9-10 degrees of Aries. The solar eclipse happens at 9 degrees of Aries. And then Saturn will be reaching this point in spring of 2026, right? So as Neptune starts to dissolve those things, so we have the solar eclipse, it sort of is like a spark of something new. We're going to have Neptune moving into Aries, and then we'll start to dissolve some of those things for you. And then at the time that Saturn gets to 9 degrees, he's going to say, what are we going to do with this, right? Neptune dissolves, Saturn builds, puts structure, foundation to things. So when Saturn gets here next year, he's going to be demanding a more structured and disciplined approach to your friendships, to your social aspirations, to your professional networks. So what feels like sort of an open-ended vision right now is later going to require you to take some concrete steps and probably make some serious commitments by the time that Saturn moves into this space. So it's likely that the people that you surround yourself with are going to play a key role in shaping your future. So you're really going to be asked to define your role in leadership and teamwork settings and within your broader social causes, right? If during this time you are feeling uncertain about your direction in terms of group dynamics, this is when the clarity and the responsibility is going to come in and take center stage, right? That's spring of 2026. So overall, let's just talk about what Saturn and Neptune being in Aries looks like for you. Neptune's going to move in, right? He's going to want to expand your social and your professional dreams, but things are likely to feel sort of idealistic, right? They might feel like it's a little bit ungrounded at first. spring of 2026, Saturn's going to move into this degree. And it's going to bring that structure and responsibility required to really help you take hold of what has felt sort of limitless and put some discipline into that. And then definitely over the course of the next year or two, this is going to be a really good time for you to network and dream big, but also be mindful of illusion, right? Saturn is going to require or definitely demand that you put some commitment to these things later on. So keep that in mind. Now, although I don't really think this is a month at all to take steps forward with, definitely not with anything new, right? Especially relationally and financially. I do want to call out some of the days that I feel like are better for taking action if that's something that you feel like you must do. March 8th, we're going to have Sun trine Mars. So this is going to be excellent for leadership within groups, in your in your network settings, and also for maybe reconnecting with some valuable allies. From the 21st of March through the 25th of March, we're going to have Sun, Venus, and Mercury all making a sextile to Pluto. So for those days, this could be a really good time for deepening some friendships and some networks with any influential people in your life. And then on the 30th, we're going to have a little bit of clarity move through for us, right? This could be a realization about friendships, about your goals, or maybe your career path for the future. Again, I want to remind you to wait until April before you make any final decisions if you can. So for you, Gemini, March is really a month for reassessing your friendships, your aspirations, and your professional path, right? It's making some space for a deeper alignment in your social and your career life. And this is going to be a time for sorting through those connections and realigning with your true ambitions as you start to prepare to make some major reinvention in the future. And the people that you surround yourself with now are likely to shape your future success. So I definitely would recommend choosing wisely, right? Keep an open mind, but definitely don't be rushing any decisions, because this is a month that's really more about observation and reflection than it is taking action. Good luck to you, Gemini. If you are a Cancer rising, March is going to be a powerful month for your career, your public image, and your life direction. Now you've got Venus and Mercury both stationing retrograde in Aries, plus we have that solar eclipse all happening in your 10th house of career and reputation. So you're really being called to reevaluate your professional path, your public role, and your long-term ambitions. This is a month that's going to be about pausing to reflect before you make any big career moves, right? There are going to be some delays. There are going to be some past career opportunities that might resurface for you, right? Or there might be a need for you to redefine your leadership role within your current space. Now, while this is likely to feel a little bit frustrating at times, you're going to want to trust that this is a necessary recalibration in order for you to align with your true calling. So March is about career reflection, it's about public visibility, and it's about reassessing your professional goals. The Aries solar eclipse on the 29th is sort of a game changer for you. It's in your 10th house, so it's pushing you toward new opportunities, toward leadership roles, and it's really going to make a shift in your public perception. Venus is going to be retrograde in Aries, so you might be reconsidering your values in relation to work. You might be reconsidering how you handle leadership roles or taking on a leadership role, and anything related to your reputation. You're also going to have Mercury retrograde in Aries. And this is going to be about conversations related to your career choices. It could be about mentorship. It could also be about public influence. And then we also have the Virgo lunar eclipse that's going to be highlighting your daily responsibilities, your mindset, and your communication habits. But career isn't the only focus that you have for this month. Your personal identity and your emotional well-being are also evolving. So this is going to be a time for you to balance your external ambitions with your internal alignment. Any places where you've been feeling stuck or unsure, you're going to want to trust that what's happening now is a part of a larger transformation that's leading you to some deeper clarity. Now let's take a look at your ruling planet, which is the moon. We have a lunar eclipse in Virgo, so this is likely to have a significant emotional and practical impact for you. This might look like your routines, maybe your mental patterns, possibly your mindset is up for review, right? How you think things through. You might also be experiencing a turning point in how it is that you communicate, especially within your work setting. And if you've been feeling a little bit overwhelmed by tasks, then this eclipse is going to help you to restructure your workflow so that your emotional boundaries are also taken care of. Now, the moon's influence this month is going to be suggesting emotional awareness is going to be key for you. It's going to be helping you to navigate these shifts. Now, how you feel about your work and your public identity is just as important as the actual decisions that you make. So keep that in mind. Now, if we take a look at Venus, Venus is going to be stationing retrograde in your 10th house of career and public reputation. This happens on March 1st, happens at 10 degrees of Aries. So this is going to be a moment for you to reassess your professional path, your leadership style, and how you are perceived publicly. So this could be a past job opportunity that comes up. It could be a mentor that comes into your life. It might also be a professional contact that returns to you, right? And you're going to want to be thinking, is this something that I should be reconnecting with, right? Again, I recommend not making any decisions, but just taking the time to reflect on these things. You may be questioning whether your current role aligns with your long-term values as well. And if you've been really overworking yourself, this is going to be a time for you to reevaluate your relationship with your ambition. Venus is going to conjunct the sun at the end of the month. So this might offer a major realization about your career path. Keep in mind that Venus is still retrograde, right? So I would avoid making any final career decisions until you get to April. Mercury is also going to retrograde in Aries, your 10th house. That starts on March 15th and then is going to be moving back into Pisces, which is your 9th house. And that happens on the 29th of March. So this is going to signal a period for you of reconsidering your career path and your educational or possibly your philosophical perspectives. Now, career negotiations or conversations may stall out during this time. So remember that patience is important. You could have a mentor, a teacher, or maybe a long-term project that resurfaces during this time. And that's going to, again, be having you take some time to reflect on those things and what they mean in your life. And you may also feel really uncertain about what the big picture of where your life is heading looks like. So again, take this month to reflect, to go inward, right? You're going to want to trust in the process. That's key. Now, Mercury is also going to come in conjunction with the sun at the end of the month, and this will likely bring you a little bit of clarity to the area of career and public standing. But just like Venus, we're going to want to wait until Mercury goes direct in April before we start to do anything like sign contracts or make any major professional changes, okay? Now, the lunar eclipse on the 14th happens in Virgo, and this is going to be activating your 3rd house of communications, learning, and daily tasks. So this eclipse is going to bring some clarity about how you handle information. It's going to bring some clarity about your mental habits and your emotional processing. So a major work task or possibly a project might reach some level of completion during this time. You might also recognize that your thought patterns have been holding you back a little bit, right? So you might have a shift in your mindset. And if your daily schedule has really been feeling overwhelming to you, now is going to be the time for you to refine what your time management skills and opportunities look like. So I would encourage you to dive into that as well. This eclipse is really helping you to create a more sustainable workflow and have a better emotional approach, one which is going to directly support your career evolution during that solar eclipse that's happening on the 29th. So the solar eclipse is going to be signaling a shift in your 10th house. And this is the house of career, public life, and recognition. Now, it's important to keep in mind a lot of things about this eclipse. Number one, it ties back to that October 2024 Libra eclipse that we have. So this is really showing you that career shifts from last fall are now going to be reaching a turning point, right? A new career direction may open up at this time, and you might also be hearing about some big announcements or have some realization about your career as well. If you have been waiting on some level of professional recognition, it may start to come into focus for you now. And you also might step into some sort of leadership role. You could be just redefining what it is that success looks like for you with a solar eclipse. Now, there's a lot of activation, a lot of things happening around 9-10 degrees. This is where Venus and Mercury are stationing their retrograde. This is where the solar eclipse is happening. It's also important to keep in mind that Neptune is going to move into Aries at the end of the month. So this eclipse is really marking the beginning of a more profound journey in your career and your public life. It's one that's really going to unfold over the next couple of years. So when Neptune moves into Aries on the 30th of the month, it's going to bring some visionary inspiration, some sort of spiritual growth to the area of career and public identity. So you might feel really drawn to a leadership role at this time, right? One that will allow you to express your ideals and your creativity. However, Neptune's influence can often blur boundaries for us. This could be making it easy to sort of over-idealize career paths or to maybe take on some unrealistic responsibilities. So I would recommend using this time to connect with your higher purpose and to align your ambitions with your spiritual values, right? But stay grounded in practicality. That's key with Neptune. Now, when Saturn reaches this degree, which happens in the spring of 2026, he's going to be demanding a more disciplined and structured approach to your career and your public life. So what is probably going to feel like a really inspired vision now at the end of March and into April is really going to start to require some sort of concrete steps for you in terms of long-term commitments in the future. So this is going to be a time when you're going to be asked to really solidify that public image, right? So Neptune's going to move in and help you with the dream. Saturn's coming in spring of next year to say, how do we build a reputation based on integrity? How do we take on a leadership role that requires accountability and responsibility out of us? So be thinking about that over the year. If you feel a little bit uncertain about your career direction, Saturn is going to bring some clarity come spring of next year and is going to really help you find that strategic planning that you need. So by the time that you are ready to transform this visionary idea that you have into some sort of sustainable achievement, Saturn's going to be helping you to do that, right? It just may take It may take some time over the next year for that to actually come to fruition. So what does this Neptune-Saturn look like in terms of shaping your future? Neptune's going to move into Aries at the end of the month, right? This is going to be expanding your career dreams, but things are probably going to feel very uncertain at first. They probably might even feel a little bit unrealistic, right? Just remember that Saturn's going to be reaching this degree come spring of next year, and he's going to demand that you put in that commitment. You start to put some structure around building that career path. So whatever it is that seems really limitless now or maybe dreamlike is definitely going to require some responsibility out of you later. Use this as a time to dream big because that's what you want to do, right? That's what you're being encouraged to do, but also stay grounded, right? Don't go too far from center. Saturn is going to help you shape your career path into something sustainable, but it's going to be coming over the next year. Now, because we have eclipses and we have all the retrograde energy happening, I do want to call out some best days for everybody if you feel like you must take action or move forward with something, these would be the days I would recommend, although obviously waiting until April would be much better. March 8th, you're going to have the Sun trine Mars. So this would be a really good day to take leadership in a workspace or maybe within public matters. From the 21st to the 25th, Sun, Venus, and Mercury are all going to be making a sextile to Pluto. So this could be a time when some deep professional insights come to you, right? You could have some transformative sort of career realizations during this time. And then on the 30th, you might have a little bit of clarity move through for you, right? You could have a realization about your career direction, but I definitely would still wait until April to sort of take action on those things. So for you, Cancer, 2025 is going to be a pivotal month in terms of stepping into a new chapter in your career and your public identity. But before you fully launch forward, there are some important reflections and some adjustments that are going to need to be made. So this is going to be a time to refine your vision, to reassess your goals, and to trust that any delays that you're experiencing right now are really guiding you toward the right path. Definitely take the time to check in with yourself. That's going to be important. Your emotions and your intuitions are going to guide you into making the right choices. Good luck to you, Cancer. For Leo rising, Leo, for you, this is going to be a month about expanding your horizons, your philosophical shifts, and deepening your spiritual reflection. Venus and Mercury are both going to be stationing retrograde in Aries. We also have the solar eclipse happening in Aries. So this is all your 9th house of higher learning, of travel, and personal beliefs. So you're going to be called to rethink your worldview, possibly your spiritual path, or your long-term aspirations. Well, this is going to be a month that's about stepping back and reassessing your direction and really embracing some personal growth. This could be happening through travel. It could be happening through study or through some deep introspection. But you're preparing for a more powerful expansion in your life. Before you're able to do that, though, you're going to have to refine your vision. Now, this might be a month where you're feeling stuck, right? Retrogrades are a chance to improve and perfect your strategy before you take any or make any big moves, which should be happening in April. March is about broadening your horizons and embracing a new perspective. It's also about refining your belief system. The solar eclipse that's happening in Aries on the 29th is going to initiate a major shift in your understanding of life, and it's going to be pushing you towards some new experiences, maybe some new studies, maybe even a change in direction for you. Venus is also going to be retrograde in Aries, so past educational goals or maybe travel plans could be resurfacing. And you also have Mercury retrograde in Aries. So this is going to be bringing a review of your spiritual insights, of maybe mentorship or possibly some philosophical outlook that you've had. The Virgo lunar eclipse on the 14th is going to be highlighting themes of money, resources, and self-worth. So it's going to be helping you to understand how your financial stability really helps to support your broader aspirations. For you, the sun is your ruling planet. So that solar eclipse on the 29th is going to be particularly impactful for you. This is going to be marking a fresh start in your 9th house of exploration, of faith, and higher wisdom. So some things that could be happening is, one, you might feel a strong pull toward learning, teaching, or traveling. You might also have a shift in your personal philosophy or your belief system that unfolds. And if you have been feeling really restricted in terms of your thinking, this eclipse is definitely going to be pushing you to really see the bigger picture in a different way. So this is the month that's going to be worth embracing some growth, but also for reviewing past experiences in order to ensure that you're moving in the right direction. If you're unsure about your long-term vision, now's going to be the time for you to explore some different perspectives, to do some research around new opportunities, and really to remain open to inspiration. On the 1st of the month, we have Venus stationing retrograde in your 9th house of philosophy, education, and travel. This happens at 9 degrees of Aries. It's important to keep in mind 9 to 10 degrees of Aries is kind of where everything's happening this month. So for you, some past travel opportunity, maybe an educational pursuit, or possibly a spiritual practice might be coming back into focus for you. You may also be feeling the urge to reassess what you truly value in your quest for knowledge and for personal growth. You could also be feeling a little bit disconnected from your belief system. So this is going to be a time to realign with what it is that resonates with you currently. Well, Venus is going to conjunct the Sun at the end of March. So this might bring you some level of realization about your broader vision for life. However, because Venus is still retrograde, you're going to want to take some time before you make any major decisions about studies or travel or ideological shifts, right? Anything that's going on in the 9th house, you're going to want to pause on that for now. Well, Mercury also starts its retrograde in Aries on the 15th. So it starts out in your 9th house, and then on the 29th is going to move back into your 8th house. So this is going to be signaling a period of some deep introspection regarding your shared resources, your psychological growth, and your personal transformation. You might be revisiting a past legal matter during this time, maybe an educational plan or some sort of publication project, right? If you have been looking at writing or publishing anything. A mentor or a teacher from the past could be re-entering your life at this time. Also, psychological healing, maybe some shadow work may be coming up as some key themes of this Mercury retrograde. Now, just like Venus, Mercury is going to move into a conjunction with the Sun near the end of March. So this might offer you some level of clarity about your spiritual insights or your personal growth. But just like Venus, it's also still retrograde. So until it moves direct in April, you're going to want to pause before you commit to any sort of long-term educational travel or publishing plans. If we take a look at the lunar eclipse that happens on the 14th, for you, this is about money, it's about self-worth, and it's about leadership. This is going to be activating your 2nd house of finances, self-worth, and material security. So this eclipse is bringing a turning point in how it is that you manage your money, how you value yourself, and how you build long-term security. So you might have a financial matter that comes to some sort of completion at this time, right? It could be a job contract. It could be an investment. It could be some major purchase that happens. You might also be reassessing how your financial habits are really aligned with your broader life goals. And definitely if you have been feeling like you maybe are undervaluing yourself, this eclipse is really going to encourage you to recognize your worth. Now, lots of things are happening in Aries this month. We already talked about the eclipse. I want to talk a little bit about Neptune moving into Aries. Now, Neptune is a slow-moving planet, but when it changes signs, we feel that shift happen. So what's going to happen for you is that your ability to really pursue your long-term aspirations, which is your 9th house, is going to be directly linked to your financial confidence and your stability in your 2nd house. Now, this Virgo lunar eclipse is going to ask you to examine your practical foundations and make sure that they support your dreams, right? Are your financial habits really aligned with your bigger goals? Are you possibly undervaluing your talent or your resources, right? These things could be holding you back from pursuing some new opportunities. Well, this eclipse is going to encourage you to refine your budget and to release any outdated money patterns, right? It's going to help you to build a financial base that really helps support the vision that you have for your future. By creating a stronger financial foundation now, you will feel more empowered to pursue those educational opportunities, to take some travel to maybe look at your publishing projects or any aspiration that really helps to expand your horizons, right? If fear or doubts or worthiness are the things that are blocking your progress, you're going to want to use this time to release those things. Now, the more confident that you feel about your financial stability, the more freely that you can chase your dreams without feeling very limited by your material concerns. Now, Neptune is going to be moving into Aries, and let's just take a sort of long view of what that looks like, how that's going to be shaping your future. So Neptune moves into Aries at the end of April. It's going to be helping you to expand your vision for life, but some of your dreams are probably going to feel a little bit unclear. They could even feel a little bit realistic at first, right? Remember that Neptune is the planet of disillusion, of illusion, of dissolving. It's the planet of fogginess, right? A lot of things aren't clear when we're dealing with Neptune. What you want to remember is that Saturn is going to be moving into this degree, 9 degrees of Aries, come spring of 2026, right? So Neptune sort of dissolves things. Saturn really helps us to build them up. So over this next year, whatever your dreams are in terms of making these changes in your life, Saturn's going to be helping you. It's going to be making you sort of commit to some kind of structured learning, some sort of disciplined travel, right? Some sort of long-term philosophical approach. Saturn's going to be the planet that moves you to build some level of foundation and structure around that. So what you want to be thinking about over the next year is use this time to dream big, right? But also be preparing to put in the work when Saturn arrives here. You're going to want to start thinking about what foundations you can really lay now in order to support that future expansion that you want to have in your life. So again, I want to just remind you that we have a lot of activations happening around 9-10 degrees of Aries. Both Venus and Mercury start their retrograde right here. The solar eclipse happens right here. That solar eclipse is also opposing what happened back at the eclipse in October of 2024. So I would say think back to that time, move slowly. Best you can, don't move forward with any permanent actions for the month of March. Wait until April and things start to subside and become a little more clear. If you do feel like you must take action this month, I do want to call out a few days that I feel like would be good for that. March 8th, we're going to have Sun trine Mars. So this would be a good day for learning, for spiritual work, and for planning any future travels. From March 21st to the 25th, we're going to have Sun, Venus, and Mercury all making a sextile to Pluto. So this could be a period of some deep insight for you into your personal growth and your life direction. Again, do your best to reflect on those things. Take action if you must. And then on the 30th, we could have a little bit of clarity arise for us, right? Not completely, but this could be a realization about your belief system. But again, if you can wait until April before acting on major changes, I would definitely recommend that. So for you, Leo, this is going to be a month of stepping into a new phase of exploration, of higher learning, and spiritual growth. Before you fully embrace this next chapter that's coming up, you're going to want to take some time to reassess your beliefs, to refine your ambitions, and to ensure that your path is really aligned with your deeper truth. Now, if you're unsure about your long-term direction, it's important to start small, right? Research a topic, read a book, or maybe take a short course, right? Do something that's not necessarily permanent. But definitely be making some way toward expanding your curiosity, right? Trust that any delays that are setting in for you right now are really going to help you to move forward with better clarity into this more purposeful journey that you're creating ahead. Good luck to you, Leo. For Virgo rising, March is going to be a month of emotional introspection and possibly some powerful financial shifts for you. Venus and Mercury are both going to be stationing retrograde in Aries. We also have the solar eclipse happening in Aries. So that's all 8th house themes for you of shared resources, intimacy, and personal transformation. So you're really being called to redefine your approach to emotional and financial security. This is going to be a month that's about releasing what it is that no longer serves you, embracing some deeper emotional healing, and maybe even preparing for some long-term changes up ahead. Now, this could be through financial restructuring. It might be about emotional breakthroughs for you. It could also be about facing some hidden fears, but you are stepping into a phase of some deep renewal that's going to require you to reshape your future. However, this is definitely not a time to rush, right? Retrogrades offer us a chance to refine our strategy before we fully commit to any major financial or emotional decisions. Oh, this is also about letting go, right? About transforming and recalibrating your sense of power. That Aries solar eclipse on the 29th is going to initiate a major shift in how it is that you manage your shared resources, how you deal with emotional intimacy, and any sort of psychological growth. Venus is also going to be stationing retrograde in Aries, so this might be past financial entanglements or maybe relationships that resurface for you. And then we also have Mercury retrograde in Aries, and this is probably going to be a review of contracts, maybe debts, or personal boundaries for you. And then the Virgo lunar eclipse on the 14th is going to be especially personal, as it's going to highlight some themes of self-identity, of personal goals, and relationships. So this month is going to call for you to take some time for reflection, to have an opportunity for possibly some deep healing or maybe some strategic planning before you start to take any major steps to go forward. Your financial and your emotional world is shifting at this time, right? But these changes really start with the way that you see yourself. Now, if we take a look at your ruling planet and its influence, Mercury is your chart ruler. So this means that Mercury retrograde from the 15th to into April is going to be particularly impactful for you. Mercury movements are going to require some careful thinking and some patience before you make any financial or relationship decisions. You might be reviewing some financial deals, some investments. You might be reviewing partnerships. Those things could all be up for reevaluation at this time. You might also be revisiting some past emotional wounds or possibly some unresolved financial matters that need a second look. And this could also be a time of deeply assessing where you place your trust and your resources. Now, Mercury is going to be moving backward into Pisces, which is your 7th house, and that happens on the 29th of March. So this is the house of relationships, right? Both personal and professional. You may require some renegotiation or maybe setting some clearer boundaries around those topics. Now, if old issues do resurface, I would encourage you to ask yourself, is this something that really needs closure, or is it time to really move forward with something else? If we take a look at the Venus retrograde, this happens in your 8th house of shared finances, intimacy, and transformation. Venus retrograde begins on the 1st of March at 9 degrees of Aries. So this might look like some past financial obligations or maybe some investments that resurface. You may also be reassessing the emotional depth and the trust that you put into your relationships. And this is going to be a really good time to reflect on how you share your energy, right? Your financial energy, your emotional energy, and your spirituality. Well, Venus is going to come into conjunction with the sun at the end of March. So this will be a small opportunity. Again, it's still retrograde, but it could bring a realization about your financial security and your emotional well-being. Because Venus is still retrograde, I would recommend avoiding any long-term commitments or any drastic financial moves, right? Until Venus starts to move direct in April. Mercury is also going to be retrograde in Aries, your 8th house. Mercury starts its retrograde on the 15th, and it's going to be moving back into your 7th house on the 29th. So this is going to signal a period of reviewing financial contracts, of your emotional partnerships, and any long-term commitments that you have. So this might look like a past financial issue. Could be related to inheritance or maybe some sort of loan, right? Those things might be up for reassessment at this time. You may be reconnecting with an old partner or possibly revisiting some discussions about shared assets. This is definitely a time for boundary setting in relationships, right? This is going to be essential because if you're giving too much or not enough, that's going to create some problems all on its own. So if any financial or emotional confusion arises during this time, it's best to pause and evaluate rather than making any sort of immediate decisions, right? Retrogrades are really meant for adjustment, not for rushing into any sort of action. Now, the lunar eclipse is going to be happening on the 14th. That will be activating your first house of self, identity, and personal goals. So this eclipse is going to bring a powerful turning point in how you see yourself and how you are perceived by others. So this might look like a major self-evaluation that's underway at this time. You might feel really called to change your appearance, right? To make some big decisions about your lifestyle or your personal brand. Relationship dynamics may also shift under this lunar eclipse, right? Some partnerships will evolve. Some of them might naturally fade away. This eclipse really encourages you to release any outdated self-concepts and to step into a more empowered version of yourself. Now, since this eclipse directly impacts your sense of self, it's important for you to prioritize your self-care, your confidence building, and clarity in your personal relationships. The way that you see yourself now is really going to set the foundation for your future relationships and your financial decisions. So give that some thought. Now, the solar eclipse happens on the 29th, and this is going to be signaling a major shift in your 8th house of transformation, shared resources, and deep psychological healing. Well, this eclipse is directly linked to that October 2024 Libra eclipse that we had, right? It's showing past financial or emotional cycles that are now sort of reaching a critical turning point. So there could be a financial reset that's possible, right? This could be around debts, taxes, loans. Any of those things could be restructured during this time. It could be a deep emotional healing process that begins at this time, right? This could be maybe through some therapy. It could be through some personal reflection. It could also be just a really intense life experience that happens around this time. You might also feel ready to release some emotional baggage and sort of step into a new version of yourself. Now, this eclipse asks, are you emotionally and financially aligned with where it is you want to be? It's just the beginning of a longer story that's going to unfold over the next couple of years. So when Neptune moves into Aries on March 30th, it's going to begin this transformation approach to your shared resources, your debts, and your emotional bonds. So you might feel drawn to explore some spirituality through some level of intimate relationships, maybe some psychological healing. It could be some transformative financial ventures that you get involved with. However, Neptune's influence can often blur the boundaries for us. And for you, that would be in your financial commitments or your emotional exchanges. So it's going to be essential that you trust your intuition while maintaining some level of practical discernment. So use this time to release any old fears about vulnerability, about shared power, and financial security. Now in April, Saturn's going to move to this degree of 9 degrees of Aries, right? So just as a reminder, let's just think about both Mercury and Venus started their retrograde 9-10 degrees of Aries. Got the solar eclipse at 10 degrees of Aries. And then that is directly opposing the eclipse that happened back in October of 2024. So when Saturn gets to this degree in spring of 2026, it's going to be demanding a disciplined and structured approach to your shared resources, your debts, and your emotional investment, right? What feels like an emerging sort of spiritual awareness now is going to require some practical application and some level of long-term commitment in the future. Now, by then, you're going to be asked to redefine how you merge with others. That's emotionally, financially, and energetically. So this is going to be a period of accountability and responsibility where you're really learning to navigate power dynamics with some level of clarity and integrity. So if you have been avoiding any financial planning around joint ventures, around emotional boundaries, Saturn's going to bring that necessary structure and stability to really help you solidify that personal growth. So Neptune is moving into Aries on March 30th, right? This is going to inspire new financial and emotional perspectives for you, but things are probably going to feel unclear, maybe idealistic at first. Just remember that Saturn's going to reach this degree come spring of 2026. And what Saturn's going to do is require you to take responsibility for any long-term financial stability and personal empowerment that you want to see in your life. So over this next year, use this time to review your long-term financial plans, to establish some healthy emotional boundaries, and to prepare for a more structured future. Now, I don't recommend that you make any sort of permanent decisions or take any bold forward moves during the month of March. But if you feel like there are things that you can't wait on, I do want to call out what I feel like are some best days for the month. So on the 8th of March, we're going to have the Sun trine Mars. And this would be a good day for some financial planning or maybe taking control of some shared resources. From the 21st to the 25th, Sun, Venus, and Mercury will all be sextiling Pluto. So this could be a time for some deep psychological insights, right? Maybe some financial transformations are occurring now. On the 30th, we're going to have a little bit of clarity move through. This could look like a realization about finances or maybe emotional commitments for you. But again, I recommend waiting until April for any sort of final decisions. All right, Virgo, March is going to be a transformative month for you. So what you're stepping into is a period of deep emotional and financial renewal. This is going to be a time for you to release fears, to let go of any toxic dynamics regarding finances or relationships, and to realign with what truly empowers you. Now, if you are feeling uncertain about your financial or your emotional security, what you should do is take small steps to help establish clarity, right? Look into some financial planning, maybe revisit some past emotional patterns, but allow yourself some time to process before you make any major commitments. That's more for April. Good luck to you, Virgo. All right, Libra rising. For you, this is a month of relationship dynamics, of personal commitments, and maybe some major shifts within your partnerships. Well, we've got Venus and Mercury both stationing retrograde in Aries. We also have a solar eclipse in Aries. So that's all 7th house activation for you. House of relationships, contracts, and collaborations. So you're really going to be called to reassess your partnerships and your commitments this month. This is about redefining who you align with, revisiting any past relationship themes, and probably considering what partnerships truly serve your growth. Now, this could be in love, in business, or personal agreements, but the universe is really encouraging some level of reflection before any major decisions are made. Now, this isn't the time to rush forward with anything. March is full of retrogrades, right? Retrogrades are opportunities for us to refine our approach before we make any final commitments. So themes for you this month, Libra, are relationship transformation, renegotiating commitments, and gaining clarity in your partnerships. That solar Aries eclipse on the 29th is going to initiate a major reset in your 7th house, right? This could be affecting marriages. It could be affecting business contracts. It could be a significant one-on-one relationship that you have. Venus retrograde in Aries is about past relationships or unresolved agreements that might resurface during this time. And then Mercury retrograde in Aries is going to have you reconsidering how you communicate and how you connect with others. And then we also have the Virgo lunar eclipse on the 14th, and that's going to be highlighting any subconscious patterns, maybe some healing, maybe some self-sabotaging tendencies that you have. Now, healing unconscious patterns during that Virgo eclipse will really help you enter that Aries solar eclipse with some level of clarity that's going to allow you to engage in healthier, more fulfilling partnerships. Now, first, let's take a look at your ruling planet, which is Venus. Venus is going to be retrograde in the month of March. She starts her retrograde on the 1st. And that's going to be particularly significant for you. Venus movements are going to require you this month to carefully think through your emotional awareness in your relationships. So, an ex-partner or maybe a past relationship dynamic could resurface at this time. This could be a time when you are questioning whether your current commitments are still really aligned with your values. You might also be looking at some financial partnerships that are going to require some level of renegotiation. Well, Venus retrograde in your 7th house, it's really best to hold off on any major relationship decisions until Venus moves forward in April. If perhaps an ex or past reconnection returns, rather than rushing into any sort of reunion, I would definitely ask myself, is this reconnection built on personal growth, or is it possibly just repeating some past cycle or pattern that I have? Well, Venus is going to station retrograde in your 7th house at 9 degrees of Aries. So relationship reassessments are likely to come up. You might be reconnecting with someone from your past. You might have an existing relationship that goes through some reevaluation period. You might also be asked to reflect on what it is that you truly need from a partner, right? Whether that's a romantic, business, or a personal partner. Venus is going to conjunct the sun at the end of March. So that'll be bringing a level of realization about relationship patterns and commitments to you. However, because this is a month of retrograde, you want to avoid making any long-term partnership commitments until after April. Well, Mercury will also be retrograde in the sign of Aries. So again, this is your 7th house, right? This is going to be signaling a period of relationship reflection, communication adjustments, and some possible contract revisions for you. You might be revisiting some past conversations with a partner, or maybe with some other significant connection in your life. There may be some misunderstandings in your relationship that surface during this time, right? You want to wait for some clarity before you react. And if any work-related contract is up for review or under review at this time, I would wait until after Mercury goes direct in April before you sign anything. Now, Mercury will also come in conjunction with the sun at the end of March. So this will be offering you some level of clarity about your personal connections and your agreements. However, because it's retrograde, the very best course of action will be to wait until April before you make any final commitments. Well, let's take a look at the eclipses for you. And the total lunar eclipse in Virgo is going to activate your 12th house, the house of the subconscious patterns, of healings, and of endings. So this is going to be bringing some emotional clarity around hidden fears, around self-sabotaging behaviors, or any sort of relationship baggage that you might be carrying. You might have a deep realization about unhealthy relationship cycles that emerges during this time. You may also feel the need to retreat. You might want to reflect and take some time to process your emotions before you take any sort of action. And if you've been holding on to any sort of outdated situation, right, this eclipse is going to help you to let that go. So this eclipse really supports your emotional healing journey. It's helping you to clear out any old wounds before you start to step into a new relationship commitment of any kind. If you feel uncertain about your partnerships, I would recommend using this time for internal reflection rather than external action. Journaling, revisiting past conversations, or seeking some outside perspective can really to help you make better decisions in April. Now, the solar eclipse is in your 7th house. And so this eclipse is going to be linked back to that October 2024 eclipse that happened in Libra. It's going to be showing you that past relationship themes are now sort of reaching a turning point, right? So think back to what happened back in October. A new relationship, maybe business partnerships, or some contractual agreement may emerge at this time. There could be some existing relationships that undergo some level of transformation, right? But this is leading to a deeper level of commitment or possibly some level of separation. And you might be redefining your approach to love, business, and long-term agreements. Now, this eclipse isn't just about romance, of course. It also applies to business relationships, to legal contracts, to your close friendships. So take some time before committing to anything new to definitely do some reflection on those things. Well, this eclipse is just the beginning of a longer story that's going to unfold over the next couple of years. So Neptune will be moving into Aries on March 30th, and this is going to begin influencing your relationships, your partnerships, and really how you connect with others. So you might feel drawn to more spiritually aligned relationships, or you could be inspired to collaborate on some creative humanitarian project. However, Neptune's influence can really blur boundaries for all of us. So it could lead to some idealization or maybe some unrealistic expectation in terms of your partnerships. So I would use this time to connect with others through empathy and shared vision, but keep your discernment sharp and really avoid making any sort of long-term commitments too hastily. Now in April, in spring of 2026, Saturn is going to be reaching this degree, 9 degrees of Aries. Now let's think about all the things that have happened around this time, around this degree. Both Venus and Mercury retrograde at 9-10 degrees of Aries. The solar eclipse happens at around that same degree. That solar eclipse is opposing the Libra eclipse that happened in October of 2024. So it's a lot of activation in this area of your chart, right? When Saturn gets to this degree next year, it's going to be demanding that there's some disciplined and realistic approach to your relationships and your partnerships. So what feels like a spiritual connection or maybe a visionary collaboration now at this time is going to require some level of structure and commitment and really long-term planning in the future. So this is a time when you're going to be asked to really solidify relationships built on mutual respect, on integrity, and clear communication. So if you have been avoiding any necessary conversations or maybe some boundary discussions, Saturn is really going to require you to face those themes with a level of responsibility and maturity when he gets here. So by this time that Saturn reaches this area of your chart, you'll have a clear understanding of who belongs in your life for the long haul and who may really no longer align with your evolving path. So let's just review what this sort of Neptune-Saturn looks like in terms of shaping your future. Neptune is moving into Aries on March 30th. It's going to expand your relationship dreams, but boundaries are likely to feel really unclear during this time. Spring of 2026, Saturn's going to be reaching this area of your chart. It's going to demand that relationship commitments, accountability, and structure are placed around those things. So I would start visualizing your ideal relationship dynamics now, right? Whether those are romantic, professional, or just social. Then consider what real practical steps can you take now in order to align with that vision, right? By the time that Saturn gets here, spring of next year. Now, because we have so much retrograde energy and also because it's eclipse season, I would say that it's best to hold off on making any permanent decisions or final decisions until April. But if you feel like you must move forward with action, I want to give you a few days that might be good for doing so. On March 8th, we're going to have Sun trine Mars. This could be a good day for relationship discussions, possibly for reconnecting with someone significant, or maybe just clearing up some misunderstandings. From the 21st to the 25th of March, Sun, Venus, and Mercury are all going to be making a sextile to Pluto. So this could be a period for partnerships in terms of deep connections or maybe some realizations that occur and can be up for discussion at this time. On the 30th of March, then we might have a little bit of clarity move through, right? So you could have a realization about your significant relationships, but still I would wait until April comes around before you make any final decisions. So Libra, for you, March is going to be a month of stepping into a period of major relationship reassessment, of some healing, and probably transformation related to your relationships. Now, before you make any long-term commitments, take the time to review your values, to observe any recurring patterns that come up for you, and to ensure that the partnerships that you build really align with your personal evolution. Now, if you are feeling uncertain about any relationships, I would use this as a time to reflect rather than to react, right? Focus on what you need, what you can offer, and what truly supports your growth. Good luck to you, Libra. For Scorpio rising, if you are a Scorpio rising, March is going to be about some deep introspection, probably shifts in your daily routines, and for reevaluating your work-life balance. Now, we have both Venus and Mercury stationing retrograde in Aries. We also have a solar eclipse happening in Aries. So this is all sixth house themes for you. It's health, it's daily habits, and it's work responsibilities. So you're going to be called to reassess how you manage your time, your energy, and your well-being. Now, this month is about finding some level of sustainable rhythm, right? It's about releasing unhealthy habits and redefining your approach to productivity versus self-care. Now, this could be about adjusting your work schedule. It could be about redefining your wellness goals. It could also be about reevaluating your daily commitments, right? But the universe is really urging you to make some practical changes that align with your long-term stability. Now, instead of feeling frustrated by delays, I would try to use this time strategically, right? This is going to be a moment for you to refine plans before you make any sort of impactful moves, right? That's more April themes. So in March, you're going to want to look at restructuring your daily life, right? You might be redefining your work routines. You might be just trying to improve your health overall. You've got the solar eclipse happening on the 29th, and that's going to initiate a major shift in your sixth house, right? It's affecting your job responsibilities, your health, and your overall well-being. Well, Venus will also be retrograding in Aries, so you're going to probably be reassessing your work relationships. You might be taking a look at how you approach your self-care. It could even be some past commitments that are really no longer aligned with you that you're having some review and reflection about. And then, of course, we also have Mercury retrograding in Aries. Both Venus and Mercury start their retrograde in Aries and move back into Pisces. Now, Mercury is going to encourage you to rethink how you communicate and how you organize your day-to-day life. And then the Virgo lunar eclipse happens on the 14th, and that's going to be highlighting your social circles, your friendships, and your long-term aspirations. So this lunar eclipse really clarifies which friendships and collaborations align with your long-term goals. Well, these insights are probably going to help you to refine your daily habits and your work-life balance when we get to that Aries solar eclipse, So let's first take a look at your ruling planet, which is Mars. The sun will be trine Mars on March 8th, right? So that could be a good time for you. It's a good day for everybody, but it could be especially good for you. Mars will provide some level of momentum and clarity regarding your work, your physical health, and your sense of purpose. Mars did just station direct at the end of February, though, right? At 17 degrees of Cancer. So he's just in the second week of March, sort of picking up his speed, if you will, getting up to full speed, I should say. So you're really still adjusting to this forward motion in the area of personal development, of your belief systems, and your long-term visions. But Mars moving direct is a good thing for you, right? You may be feeling more determined to sort of take control of your work and your wellness. You may have a new sense of purpose that's emerging regarding how it is that you manage your daily routine. And if you've been feeling really stuck or just unmotivated, March is probably going to bring some opportunities for you to shift your habits and your mindset. Now, Venus is going to station retrograde on the 1st of March. So right out the gate, we got Venus retrograde at 9 degrees of Aries. So for you, you might be reconsidering your relationship with your work, right? You might be thinking about whether you feel like you're fulfilled in your daily tasks. There could be some old health habits or maybe some self-care routines that start to resurface at this time for some level of reassessment. You could also have some past work dynamics that are going to require some level of renegotiation or could be coming up for closure at this time. Now, Venus is going to be conjunct the Sun at the end of March, right? So for all of these things, that could bring a little bit of realization about your work-life balance, about what it is that truly supports your well-being. However, Venus is going to be retrograde the entire month, so it's important to, as best you can, avoid making any drastic changes until April rolls around. Then we also have Mercury starting his retrograde in Aries, which is your 6th house. This happens on the 15th. And then he'll be moving back into Pisces, which is your 5th house, on the 29th. So this is going to signal a period of reassessing your daily habits, reassessing your work routines, and taking a different look at your creative pursuits. So you may need to revise your work schedule during this time, right? You may also need to revise your communication habits. There could also be some past creative projects or maybe a hobby or passion that could resurface during this time, and it could be urging you to reconnect with some level of joy that you have related to those things. You probably want to pay attention to any potential miscommunications that could happen at work, right? Clarity is probably going to come after Mercury moves direct in April. It's often that we suffer through frustration, miscommunications, and that can be conversations, it can be emails, it can be mail, it can be any form of communication. We often suffer through that during a Mercury retrograde. And so anything that feels uncertain at this time, I would just remind myself that you really thrive on strategy, Scorpio. So use this retrograde as a way to fine-tune your plans rather than trying to move forward with something new, right? Rushing ahead is not encouraged at this time. Now, if we take a look at the eclipses, we first have the lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 14th. That will be activating your 11th house, the house of friendships, of social circles, and long-term goals. So this eclipse is probably going to bring some clarity regarding your connections and your future aspirations. You could be looking at a significant shift within your relationships, your friendships, your group dynamics. Those things could occur right now. You might be reevaluating your long-term goals, right? Or some sort of community project that you are involved in. If a social commitment really no longer feels like it's aligned with your values, this is probably going to be the time to take a look at releasing it, right? Not every friendship or personal connection is really meant to last forever. So if certain relationships feel like they're draining you rather than being supportive, I would recommend setting some firm boundaries and possibly taking a look at maybe moving on to something better. Now, the solar eclipse in Aries happens on the 29th, and this is going to be in your 6th house, right? So you're looking at a major reset here in terms of routines, of work, and well-being. Well, this eclipse is directly linked back to the eclipse we had in October of 2024. That was a Libra eclipse, right? So this is indicating that past decisions about work, health, and daily responsibilities are really now reaching some sort of critical turning point. This might be a new job opportunity that comes up, right? It could be some shifts in your work dynamic. It could also be a health routine that emerges for you now that you try to take hold of. If you have been overextending yourself, this may be a time for you to take a look at possibly setting some better boundaries for yourself. You may also commit to some sort of new wellness approach during this time, one that really helps to better support your long-term stability. Now, this eclipse is really about, are your daily habits supporting or draining your energy, right? This eclipse is going to mark the beginning of a significant transformation that's going to unfold for everyone over the next couple of years. Now, Neptune is going to be moving into Aries on March 30th, and this is going to bring some visionary inspiration to your routines, to your work habits, and your overall well-being. You might feel really drawn to some more spirituality, something that's more aligned with your lifestyle, or possibly a career path that would allow you to serve others in a more meaningful way. The important thing to remember about Neptune is that his influence can really blur boundaries for us. So it makes it easy for us to over-idealize, for you, work scenarios, or maybe take on some unrealistic responsibilities. So I would use this time to connect with your higher purpose while trying to ensure that you are maintaining some level of practical discernment, right? Ensure that your daily habits really support both your emotional and your physical health. Now, this overall period looks like Neptune moving into Aries and then Saturn reaching this degree. And again, I want to say there's a lot of activation around this part of your chart, right? Mercury and Venus both start their retrograde 9-10 degrees of Aries. We also have the solar eclipse here. We also have that solar eclipse opposing the lunar eclipse, the eclipse that happened back in October in the sign of Libra, right? So all of this sort of reflecting, going back, is really sort of honing in on this. Now, come spring of 2026, Saturn is going to be reaching 9 degrees of Aries. So what is Saturn going to be saying? Well, he's going to be demanding a disciplined and structured approach to your work, your health routines, and your daily responsibilities. So what might feel like a really inspiring vision right now is going to require a level of commitment and some tangible actions out of you by spring of next year. So this is going to be a time when you'll be asked to solidify those habits that support your long-term growth, your productivity, and your well-being. And Saturn's influence will also challenge you to take on some leadership roles or maybe some more significant responsibilities in terms of your work, but only if those things are aligned with your authentic self and your values. So if you've been avoiding any unnecessary changes in terms of your health or your work routines, Saturn is going to require structure and accountability at a level that's needed to create some sort of sustainable habits that support your future success. So this Neptune-Saturn story that's sort of shaping your future looks like Neptune moving into Aries on the 30th, and he's going to bring some inspiration to your daily work and your wellness habits, right? But structure is going to be needed, right? Remember to be practical about what you're trying to put into place right now, what you're envisioning. Saturn is going to be reaching this degree in the spring of 2026 and is going to require discipline and commitment in terms of your long-term well-being. So what you want to be thinking about over this next year is definitely take Neptune's opportunities to dream big, but also start building some structure if you can, right? If you've been thinking about a career or a wellness change, start small, right? Start small now so that when Saturn gets here next year, he's going to help you to solidify those things in 2026. Now, because there's heavy retrograde, I definitely recommend that you don't take any bold actions to move forward. You don't put any sort of final commitments in place in the month of March. But if you feel like there are days that you need to take action, I want to call out a few that I think would be good for that. March 8th, we're going to have the Sun trine Mars, right? So this could be a really good day for implementing some new work or health strategies in your life. From the 21st through the 25th, we're going to have Sun, Venus, and Mercury all making a sextile to Pluto. So this could be a period of deep insight in terms of your habits, your personal growth, and your career path. And then around the 30th of March, we'll have some clarity move through for us. Not completely, right? Not the full picture, but this could be a realization about your work-life balance. Again, it's important to wait until April if you can before you make any final decisions. So March is going to be a month of stepping into a phase of daily life refinement, of health improvement, and professional restructuring for you. Now, before you make any drastic changes, take the time to observe your routines, evaluate your priorities, and really make any adjustments that are going to help support your long-term well-being. You might really feel the urge to overhaul your entire routine. That's not really recommended, right? It's more important to take a step-by-step approach. Small, sustainable improvements are going to be helpful in terms of making a bigger impact than any sort of extreme changes that are taken on at this time. Good luck to you, Scorpio. If you are a Sagittarius rising, welcome Sagittarius. This is going to be a month of creative breakthroughs, personal joy, and probably reevaluating how it is that you express yourself. We have both Venus and Mercury stationing retrograde in Aries. We also have a solar eclipse in Aries. So this is your 5th house, the house of creativity, romance, and passion. Or you are being called to rediscover what it is that brings you joy, to revisit any past creative projects, to re-examine your relationships with romance and pleasure. Now, this month is about reigniting your passions. It's about aligning with what it is that makes you truly feel alive. And it's also ensuring that your self-expression is authentic. So this could be through art, it could be through love, through personal endeavors, but the universe is really encouraging you to reconnect with what it is that lights you up before you go launching something new. Now, if you're feeling like a little bit impatient, I wouldn't worry, right? This is just the preparation phase for some sort of exciting new beginning that's probably happening in April for you, beginning in April. So this is going to be a month about reawakening your creative and your romantic spirit, right? It's reassessing how you pursue pleasure, and it's exploring your self-expression and how that shapes your identity. So that Aries solar eclipse on the 29th is going to initiate some major reset in your 5th house, and it's affecting your creative projects, your love life, and your sense of fun. Venus is going to be retrograde in Aries, and that's about past romantic partners. It's about creative endeavors or hobbies that reappear. And then we also have Mercury retrograding in Aries. So this is going to encourage you to reconsider your voice, your artistic talents, and your emotional connections. And then we also have the Virgo lunar eclipse. It's going to be highlighting your career, your public image, and your major life ambitions. Now, the Virgo eclipse might bring some career realizations that reshape your creative path. So your professional direction should really inspire and fulfill you, right? It should not be just about obligation. Jupiter isn't really making any major moves this month, right? This is your ruling planet. But as a Sagittarius rising, you really thrive on growth, discovery, and expansion. So this is a really good time to reflect on where you need more excitement, where you need more freedom, where you need inspiration in your life. So even if external circumstances feel really slow due to the retrogrades, you can really use this period to reignite your inner fire and to reconnect with your sense of adventure, right? Again, no aspects really happening with Jupiter, but lean into that, right? Because you have it available to you. Now, the Venus retrograde starts in your 5th house of passion, creativity, and love. So right out the gate, first of the month, we got Venus retrograde 9 degrees of Aries. So this is about past romantic connections or possibly love interests that might reappear for you. It's also about creative projects from the past that might return, or maybe some level of revision or completion that's happening with those. And you may question what it is that truly makes you feel passionate and fulfilled this month. Retrogrades are a really good time to reflect on and refine any of those things. Now, Venus will come into a conjunction with the sun at the end of the month, so it could bring a realization about what it is that lights up your heart. But because Venus is retrograde, it's important to really avoid making any sort of impulsive, romantic, or creative commitments. That's, the time for moving forward is really more in April. Now we also have Mercury retrograde, and for you, that is also the 5th house. So that starts on March 15th and will be moving back into Pisces, which is your 4th house, on the 29th of the month. So this is really going to signal a period of reassessing your self-expression, of taking a look at your home environment and your emotional roots. During this time, you might be revisiting some old artistic projects or hobbies. There could be some family matters, maybe some childhood memories that start to resurface at this time for some level of reflection. And you might also have some conversations around romance, around children, around passion projects. These are going to really require some extra patience during this time. So if you are feeling like you are restless or blocked, it's definitely best to use the retrograde to reconnect with what it is that once inspired you. Instead of making any sort of or forcing some sort of progress to come about, you really want to refine your ideas and prepare for some clearer forward motion once April gets here. Now, if we take a look at the eclipses, the lunar eclipse happens on the 14th. This is in the sign of Virgo, and it's going to be activating your 10th house, the house of career, public status, and long-term ambitions. Well, this eclipse is going to bring a turning point to your professional path and how it is that you present yourself to the world. So this could look like a career milestone. It might be some sort of projects that come to completion. It could also just be a job shift that may occur at this time. You might also be redefining how your creative and your personal passions really fit into your professional life. And if your current path doesn't really feel aligned with your true purpose, then this eclipse is probably going to push you to make a course correction here, right? A career shift doesn't necessarily have to be immediate. That's not important. This is more about realigning your work with what it is that excites you in terms of the long term, right? So I would let my curiosity guide me here in terms of making any next steps, right? And we have the solar eclipse on the 29th, and that is happening in your 5th house also. So this is going to be a major reset for you here in terms of creativity, romance, and joy. Well, this eclipse is going to be linked back to that October 2024 eclipse that happened in Libra. So this is going to be showing the past creative or romantic themes that are now reaching some level of a significant turning point for you. This could be a new romance. This could be a new passion project. It could be an artistic endeavor altogether that really begins at this point. If you have felt some level of block in terms of creativity, this eclipse is probably going to bring you some fresh inspiration around that. You might also be redefining what it is that brings you joy and how you express yourself to the world overall, right? This eclipse isn't it's not just about creativity. It's about anything that brings you happiness. So whether that's romance, hobbies, travels, adventure, this is going to be your moment to really reconnect with those things that excite you. Now, this solar eclipse is going to mark sort of the beginning of a significant transformation, right? This is going to be unfolding for everybody over the next couple of years. Definitely the next 6 months, but probably the next couple of years. Now I'm connecting that because we have Neptune entering Aries on the 30th of March. So this is going to inspire you to really explore some new dimensions of creativity, of self-expression and romance. You might feel really drawn to some artistic pursuits, some sort of spiritual practices, some kind of hobby that really allows you to express your authentic self. This could also bring some heightened intuition and a more playful, imaginative approach to your life, right? The important thing to remember about Neptune is that he can really blur the boundaries for us. So it might make it easy to get a little bit lost in fantasies or some unrealistic expectations, right? Especially in terms of romantic relationships. So I would recommend using this time to explore new creative ideas, maybe some new emotional connections, but definitely try to keep your feet on the ground as best you can, right? Avoid over-idealizing people or projects. Now, Lots of activation happening around this area of your chart. Both Venus and Mercury retrograde 9-10 degrees of Aries. We have the solar eclipse here also. That solar eclipse opposes the Libra eclipse that happened last fall. So give all of those things enough time for reflection, right? Because in April of 2026, Saturn is also going to be reaching this degree of your chart, right? And what does Saturn do? Well, he demands structure and discipline, right? When Saturn reaches this area of your chart next spring, he is definitely going to be demanding that you put some more discipline and structure around your creative pursuits, around your self-expression, around your romantic involvement. So whatever feels like an inspiring vision that you have right now, in the month of March is later going to require some level of commitment and some practical action out of you. So this is going to be a time when you're going to be asked to take your creative talents very seriously, right? Perhaps there's a turning point in a hobby, of maybe moving that into a business or some sort of commitment in terms of a long-term artistic project, right? In terms of romance or relationships that begin with this like dreamlike quality that happen now, those are not going to need to be grounded in some level of reality come next year, right? We'll be working toward that all the way through the spring to the spring of 2026. So if you've been avoiding any kind of responsibility in matters of the heart or any of your creative disciplines, Saturn is going to bring that necessary structure and accountability to help you turn those things into sustainable growth come next year, right? So that by then you'll have a real clear understanding of how to balance that inspiration with some practical execution, right? It's setting the stage for long-term fulfillment and success. So in terms of shaping your future, right? As I said, a lot of activation happening at this point in Aries in your chart. So Neptune's going to move in here. And what does he bring? He brings some heightened artistic inspiration and some romantic idealism, right? Boundaries are going to be needed. So do your best to remain practical in terms of anything that feels really dreamy. Saturn will be moving into this area of your chart come the spring of 2026. So it's going to require discipline and structure in terms of your creative pursuits, right? So if you have an artistic or personal project, something that you're really passionate about, you're going to want to start refining those skills now so that you're prepared for that long-term commitment that's required next spring. Now, because of the heavy retrogrades, I definitely don't recommend any final decisions being made in the month of March. That's more the time for April. But if you feel like you have to move forward with something, I do want to call out some days that I think are better for that. So March 8th, we're going to have the Sun trine Mars. This is going to be a powerful day for artistic inspiration, for romance, for some sort of creative breakthrough. From March 21st through the 25th, we're going to have Sun, Venus, and Mercury all sextiling Pluto. So this could be a transformative period for passion projects, for love, or for personal expression. And then on the 30th, we are going to have some level of clarity moving through for us, right? Not completely yet, but you could have a realization about a romance, about a creative direction. But I still would wait until April before you make any final or major decisions. So for you, Sagittarius, this month is going to be about passionate and creative steps into a period of some deep self-expression, right? Some artistic renewal, about emotional clarity. Now, before you dive into anything new, it's important to take time to revisit past inspirations, to reflect on your personal joy, and to refine what it is that truly makes you happy. If you have been feeling like you have a block in terms of creativity, right? Or if you're uncertain about sort of a romantic situation, trust that clarity is coming for you. It's on the horizon. Focus on what excites you rather than trying to rush into any kinds of commitments this month. Good luck to you, Sagittarius. For Capricorn rising, welcome Capricorn. For you, March is going to be about major shifts in your home, your family dynamics, and emotional foundations. We have both Venus and Mercury retrograde in the sign of Aries. We also have a solar eclipse in this area of your chart. So 4th house of home, family, and personal security. And you are going to be called to reassess your living situation, your family relationships, and your emotional well-being. So this is going to be about restructuring your foundations, about redefining stability and making some adjustments in your private life, right? This could be moving. It could be repairing some family connections. It could also be gaining some clarity on your emotional needs. But the universe is really guiding you to build a stronger, more secure base for your future. So if you are feeling uncertain, I would recommend not rushing. This is going to be a preparation phase before you are able to make some clearer decisions come April. So March is going to be about reworking your emotional and your physical home. It's about reconnecting with your family roots and making some internal shifts that align with your long-term goals. Now, the Aries solar eclipse is on the 29th, and that's going to initiate a major reset in your 4th house. So this is going to be affecting your home environment, your real estate, and family relationships. Now, Venus is also going to be retrograde in Aries. So this is about past family matters. It's about home projects. It's about emotional wounds that could resurface. And then we're also going to have Mercury as well stationing retrograde in Aries. It's going to also move back into Pisces. So that's going to prompt you to rethink how it is that you communicate with your loved ones and how you handle emotional security. And then we have the Virgo lunar eclipse on the 14th that's going to be highlighting travel, education, and expanding your long-term vision. So if you have been considering relocating, taking on some further educational opportunities, or possibly changing your belief system, this month's shifts will probably help you to see how those decisions really impact your emotional and your home life. Oh, your ruling planet is Saturn, and Saturn's not really making any major aspects this month. However, he is about stability and long-term planning, right? And so for you, that's what you can lean into, right? It's slow and steady approach to transformation is really the thing that helps you to navigate any of the shifts in your life with wisdom. So I would use that as an opportunity to lean into those strengths, although, again, nothing major is happening with Saturn. Oh, Venus is going to be stationing retrograde in your 4th house of home, family, and emotional foundations. And this happens on the 1st of March, so right out the gate, and at 9 degrees of Aries. Oh, this could be some past home-related issues for you. It could be a move. It could be renovation. It could be some sort of family discussion. Some of those things are going to be returning to you to take a look at. You might need to reconsider your family dynamics, or you could also be reevaluating your own emotional patterns. During this period, it's best that you take a look at reflecting on those things rather than making any sort of permanent decisions in terms of your living arrangements. Now, Venus will be conjunct the sun at the end of March, right? So that's going to bring some level of clarity, right? Maybe a realization about your emotional needs or your security. Of course, since Venus is retrograde, we don't recommend that you make any sort of final decisions related to home or family-related commitments during this time. April is going to be a better time for that. Mercury is also going to be retrograde in Aries. So again, this is your 4th house. This happens on March 15th, and he'll be moving backward into Pisces, your 3rd house, by the 29th. So this is going to signal a period of really reassessing home, family conversations, and how it is that you express your emotions. So you might be revisiting some past discussions with your family members. You could also be reassessing your home-related decisions, right? Where you live, what it looks like. And if you've been considering a move maybe, or possibly renovating, maybe any legal agreements in terms of your property or real estate, I would recommend waiting until Mercury moves direct in April before you make final decisions on that. Use this time to reflect on those things. I would be mindful that miscommunications can happen. It's often the case during Mercury retrograde, right? Especially with your close relatives. So April is going to be the time when you're going to have full clarity on those things. I would be reflecting on them rather than making any decisions. Wait for that clarity to come in later. If you have some emotions that are causing you to feel overwhelmed during this time, you're going to want to approach emotional conversations with some level of problem-solving mindset, right? Structured discussions rather than letting your emotions really dictate how you react to those things. That's going to be what's most important. Now, if we take a look at the lunar eclipse that happens in Virgo on March 14th, this is going to be activating your 9th house of travel, education, and philosophy. So this eclipse is going to bring some clarity regarding your long-term plans, maybe your belief system, maybe some intellectual pursuits. You may experience a shift in perspective regarding your life path, right? Possibly a legal, educational, or publishing matter may come to a conclusion or to a close at this point. A potential relocation or an opportunity abroad could really shift your perspective on home and security. Now, since this eclipse is opposite your 3rd and 4th houses, it suggests that mental shifts or external opportunities may require some level of adjustment in terms of your home life. Now, if we take a look at the solar eclipse, this is happening on March 29th, and this is going to be signaling a major reset in your 4th house. Again, it's the house of home, family, and emotional security. So it's linked back directly to that October 2024 Libra eclipse that we had, right? It's showing that past decisions about home, family, or security are now reaching some sort of critical turning point. This could be a new home situation. It could be a new family dynamic, maybe an emotional chapter that begins at this point. You might be feeling the need to restructure your living environment, right, in order to align with your personal growth. It could also be unresolved emotional matters that resurface now as a time to address them and maybe bring about some healing. So this eclipse is really asking you, is your home and your emotional foundation really supporting you, or is it restricting your growth? Now, this eclipse is going to mark the beginning of a transformation that really unfolds over the next couple of years. I want to remind you that a lot of activation is happening around this area of your chart. So both Venus and Mercury start their retrograde 9-10 degrees of Aries. The solar eclipse is here. That solar eclipse opposes that October eclipse from 2024. So on the 30th, Neptune is moving into Aries. And it's going to bring some inspiration to your home, to your family life, to your emotional foundation. So you might feel really drawn to redefine your sense of belonging, possibly looking at exploring some spirituality through your ancestry, maybe your personal history. You also could be creating a more nurturing and inspiring living space for yourself and your family. However, what's important to remember is that initially, Neptune can blur the boundaries for us, right? He makes things a little bit foggy, a little bit idealistic, a little bit unclear. So it can be easy to get lost in the nostalgia or maybe some unrealistic expectations about your family dynamic. So use this time to heal some emotional wounds if you need to. Maybe reconnect with your roots and to create a sanctuary that really supports your well-being. Now, why that's important is because spring of 2026, we're going to have Saturn moving into this area of your chart, right? He's going to be reaching 9 degrees of Aries. Now, Neptune dissolves boundaries, right? Makes things unclear and dreamy. Saturn is about building structure, putting a foundation in, about having discipline, right? So By the time Saturn comes to this part of your chart, he's going to be demanding that you have a disciplined and structured approach to your home, your family responsibilities, and your emotional security. So whatever feels like it's emerging as this vision of comfort and security and safety now is going to require some concrete steps for you in terms of long-term commitment spring of next year. So this is going to be the time when you're asked to really solidify your emotional foundations, right? Perhaps it's taking on some more responsibility within your family. Maybe it's redefining your role as a caretaker or a provider, right? Saturn will require you to face those realities in terms of your domestic life. And it's ensuring that your dreams of security are built on some stable ground. So if there are any necessary conversations that you've been avoiding, right? Or maybe changes that you've been avoiding in terms of your home environment, Saturn is going to bring that structure and accountability that's needed to create a safe and supportive foundation for your future. So, in terms of shaping your future, just remember Neptune's moving into Aries on the 30th of March, right? He's going to be bringing some sort of inspiration to this area of your chart. Saturn is going to be, over the next year, approaching this degree. He will be there by March of 2026. So that's going to be putting in the structure. So whatever you are dreaming about now with Neptune, make sure that you are taking small practical steps towards making that a reality come next spring. Now, because we have retrogrades, I don't recommend that you make any final decisions in the month of March if you can avoid it. However, if you feel like you must move forward with something, I do feel like it's important to call out what I think are useful days for the month. So March 8th, we're going to have Sun trine Mars, and this could be a good day for some productive conversations with your family or maybe making some small home adjustments. From the 21st through the 25th, we will have Sun, Venus, and Mercury all sextiling Pluto. So this could be a transformative period for some emotional insights, for some home decisions, or maybe some family healing that needs to happen. And then on the 30th of March, we'll have a bit of clarity move through, right? This could look like a realization about your home or family matters, but still I would wait until April if you can before you make any permanent changes. So for you, Capricorn, this is going to be a month of some deeply reflective and transformative time in terms of stepping into a period of home and emotional restructuring. Before you make any drastic changes, it's going to be important to take time to observe your family dynamics, to reflect on your emotional needs, and to plan adjustments that are really going to help support your long-term security. Now, if there are any family conflicts that emerge during this time, I would recommend that you focus on long-term solutions rather than any sort of immediate emotional reactions, right? Waiting until April is likely to provide you with some better clarity. Good luck to you, Capricorn. All right, if you are an Aquarius rising, March is going to be about big shifts in terms of communication, in learning, and your personal expression. We have both Venus and Mercury stationing retrograde in Aries. We also have a solar eclipse in Aries. So this is all your third house of communication, of ideas, and local connections. So you're really being called to reassess how you share information, how you interact with others, and how you refine your mindset. This is about rethinking your communication style. It's also about revisiting your past ideas or projects, and also restructuring how it is that you connect with your immediate environment. So this could be through writing, through speaking, or learning, right? But the universe is really encouraging you to fine-tune how it is you express yourself before you launch any new initiative. Now, if you're feeling a little bit uncertain, I would just trust that the clarity is going to come by the time April rolls around, when both Venus and Mercury are then direct. So for this month, you're going to be looking at reworking your communication patterns, possibly revisiting some educational or writing projects, and redefining how you express yourself in your relationships. So the Aries solar eclipse on the 29th is going to initiate a major reset in terms of your third house. This is going to be affecting your daily interactions, your learning style, and your local environment. Now, Venus is going to retrograde in Aries, so this is about past conversations, about past writing projects, or possibly some learning experiences that may resurface during this time. We are also going to have Mercury retrograde in Aries, right? So this is going to prompt you to rethink your thought processes, your decision making, and how it is that you connect with those around you. And then we also have the Virgo eclipse. It's happening on March 14th, and that'll be highlighting your financial matters, your shared resources, and your energetic exchanges. So if you have any sort of deep realizations about your shared resources, about power dynamics, or any emotional attachments that are emerging during that Virgo eclipse, they're really helping you to reshape how you express yourself and make decisions as you move forward into the solar eclipse. All right, Saturn is your ruling planet. There are no major aspects to Saturn this month. I would say as your ruling planet, it definitely lends you a level of responsibility and sort of learning wisdom over time. So it's an opportunity for you to sort of lean into that intellectual discipline that you have available to you. Saturn is direct, although he's not making any major aspects. You could lean into that strategic thinking that you have, that structured learning that really helps you to sort of build your life over time. So I would lean into that if you're feeling a little bit unsure or afloat. Now, the Venus retrograde is going to happen in your third house of communication, learning, and local environment. So right out the gate, March 1st, we got Venus retrograde, happens at 9 degrees of Aries. For you, this is going to be about a past conversation or an idea that resurfaces and is prompting you to do some level of reconsideration around those things. You might be reconnecting with someone from your past or possibly revisiting an old learning opportunity that you left behind. This is going to be a time to refine how you express yourself in terms of relationships rather than to make any final decisions about relationships. Now, Venus is going to conjunct the Sun at the end of the month, so this might bring some level of realization about your communication style, maybe about your interpersonal dynamics in terms of relationships. But because Venus is retrograde the entire month, I would avoid making or launching any new projects or committing to any major agreements until April rolls around. We also have Mercury retrograde this month. So Mercury starts his retrograde in Aries. That happens on the 15th, and then is going to move back into Pisces, which is your second house, by the 29th of March. So this is going to signal a period of reassessing how your thoughts really influence your financial decisions and your self-worth. Now, during this time, you might need to clarify some financial matters. You might need to make some clarifications or assessments around contracts that you've signed or potential learning opportunities. I would pay attention to the possibility for miscommunications as well, right? That's always an issue with Mercury, and that can come through conversation, through text message, through email, through mail, any sort of communication that you have, through contracts, right? Double check anything that's really important in terms of details, conversations, and agreements. This is really an ideal time to do all the re's, right? Rewrite, reorganize, refine, anything related to projects, traveling, communication, all of that. Rather than trying to push something forward, it's best to use retrogrades to observe, to analyze, and to do some planning. So by the time that April rolls around and Mercury and Venus both go direct, you're going to be able to take some decisive action on the insights that you've gained throughout the month of March. Now, if we take a look at the lunar and solar eclipse, the lunar eclipse happens on the 14th, and this is in the sign of Virgo, so it's activating your 8th house of shared resources, debts, and transformation. Well, this eclipse is going to bring some clarity about financial matters, maybe some energetic investments that you're making, or some possible emotional entanglements that you're involved in. So a financial agreement could be a loan. It could be some sort of shared asset. Those things could be reaching some level of completion this month. You might need to reassess your emotional and your energetic exchanges with others as well. If something is feeling like it's imbalanced, consider how to restructure it in a way that really helps to align with your evolving values. Again, not the best time for permanent decisions, but be reflecting on those, be putting some thought into how you can plan that out. Now, since this eclipse is going to be opposite your second and third houses, it really suggests that financial clarity is going to impact your mindset and your communication style as you move forward. Now, the solar eclipse happens at the end of the month. So that's in Aries on March 29th, and it's going to be marking a reset in terms of your third house of communication, of learning, and your daily interactions. So this is going to be an eclipse that is opposing that October 2024 eclipse, right? These are linked. That eclipse happened in the sign of Libra. So it's showing that past decisions regarding communication or learning or travel are now really reaching some sort of turning point for you. This could be a new learning opportunity. It could be about a writing or speaking project. It could be about networking connections that emerge during this time. If you have been struggling with your communication, then this eclipse is going to really bring you a chance to reset and redefine your approach to those things. Well, your daily environment, your community, and your relationships with your siblings are also going to undergo some sort of transformation, right? This eclipse is going to be asking you, are your daily habits and your thought patterns really supporting your personal growth? Now, this solar eclipse is going to be a larger story that's unfolding for everyone over the next couple of years. Now, specifically for you, before we move into specifically for you, I want to remind you that there's a lot of activation happening in this part of your chart, in this part of everyone's chart. The Venus and the Mercury retrograde happen at 9-10 degrees of Aries. The solar eclipse happens there. This solar eclipse opposes October's Libra eclipse that happened. So all of these things are looking at refining and realigning, right? It's all the re's when we're in retrograde and when we have turning points in our life. So what's important to note is that going forward, at the end of the month on the 30th, we have Neptune moving into Aries as well. So this eclipse is going to mark this journey that starts to unfold where Neptune moves into Aries and it starts to bring this visionary inspiration to your third house, which is communication, mindset, and learning. You might feel really drawn to some new ideas, to some potential spiritual studies, maybe some sort of creative or writing projects. This could also be a heightened intuition for you. It's helping you to reconnect with others on a deeper, more empathetic level. Neptune, though, always brings some level of blurred boundaries for us, right? He doesn't make things clear for us, especially not right off the bat. He's the planet of dissolving. He's the planet of illusion and delusion. So it's going to make it easy to feel mentally scattered or possibly overwhelmed by the amount of information that you're receiving, right? So I would recommend using this time to explore new ideas and perspective, but keep your communication clear and grounded in reality. So what's going to be unfolding then is come spring, March of 2026, Saturn is going to be reaching this point of your chart. Now, if Neptune is the planet of dissolving, of dreams, of illusion, Saturn is the planet of discipline, is the planet of structure. So when Saturn gets here next spring, he's going to be demanding those two things of you: discipline and structured approach to your communication, to your learning, to your mindset. So what you feel like is an inspiring vision right now, or maybe an intuitive download, is going to require some level of commitment and practical application come next year. Actually, it's going to be building up to that over the next year. So this is a time when you're going to be asked to refine your communication style, to master a new skill, to maybe solidify your intellectual pursuits, right? Saturn will require you to organize your thoughts, to communicate with some authority, and to take some responsibility for how your words really impact others. So if you have been avoiding any necessary conversations, or if you've been inconsistent with your learning pursuits on some level, Saturn is going to bring you that structure and accountability that's needed to turn your ideas into some sort of impactful expression, right? So that by then you are going to have a clear understanding of how to balance your intuition with your intellect. And it's really setting the stage for some powerful self-expression and some communication mastery come this time next year. Now, because we have eclipses, and definitely because we have retrograde, most especially for the whole month, it's really not the time to move forward with anything new. This is a time for reflecting and refining. But if you have to, or feel like you have to, move forward with some sort of action, again, I would make them as best you can, not permanent decisions, but these are the better days to do that if need be. March 8th, we'll have the Sun trine Mars. So this would be a great day for some mental breakthroughs, for some creative writing, or maybe some level of refining your communication skills. From March 21st through the 25th, we're going to have Sun, Venus, and Mercury all making a sextile to Pluto. So this could be a transformative period for some intellectual insights, possibly some networking, or maybe some level of decision making. And then on the 30th, we're going to have some level of clarity moving through for us. So this could be a realization about communication or learning. But again, I would wait best you can until we get to April before you make any sort of final commitments. So for you, Aquarius, this is a mentally stimulating month, right? You are stepping into a period of refining your communication skills, of revisiting some learning opportunities, or maybe restructuring how you share your ideas. Now, before you go launching any new projects, take the time to reflect on some past experiences, to organize your thoughts, and to really fine-tune your approach to your communication. So if you have been struggling to express yourself or to make some clear decisions, trust that that clarity is coming to you. You're going to want to use this month as a month to review and revise and prepare so that you can make a fresh start come April. Good luck to you, Aquarius. Now for Pisces rising, for you, this is a month about financial shifts, self-worth, reevaluation, and some redefining of your stability. Venus and Mercury will both station retrograde in the sign of Aries. We also have the solar eclipse happening in Aries. So this is all your second house, the house of income, resources, and value. You're going to be called to reassess how you earn, how you spend, how you invest, and not just with money, but also with your energy and your time. So you're going to be rethinking your financial habits, maybe gaining some clarity on what it is that truly matters to you, and ensuring that your resources are aligned with your long-term security. Now, this could be restructuring your budget. It might be shifting your mindset about abundance. It could also be reconsidering how you define success, right? The universe is encouraging you to ground yourself before you make any sort of major changes. Now, March is about reworking your financial structures. It's about improving your self-worth and reassessing your material goals. This Aries solar eclipse on the 29th is going to initiate a major reset in your second house. So this is affecting your income, your material possessions, and your sense of personal stability. Now with Venus retrograde in Aries, past financial patterns, money-making opportunities, maybe your self-worth challenges are going to be resurfacing during this time. Mercury is also going to be retrograde in Aries. So it's going to prompt you to rethink your financial planning and your personal priorities. And then also we have the Virgo eclipse that's happening on the 14th. So this is going to be highlighting your relationship dynamics, contracts, and your one-on-one partnerships. So if some deep realizations about your financial security and your relationship dynamics emerge under this Virgo eclipse, they are going to shape how you make your financial and your personal decisions moving forward, right? It's clearing the way for some sort of new beginning with that solar eclipse. Now, Neptune is your ruling planet, and Neptune is changing signs this month. So with him moving into the final degrees of Pisces before he enters Aries on the 30th, you are in a profound period of some self-reflection and transition. Now, Neptune's shift into Aries is going to mark the end of this deeply introspective cycle that you've had. So you can expect shifts from reflection into taking some action in your life path. And you might be feeling a shift in your identity, right? You might be questioning some old dreams or possibly redefining your personal priorities. But this is a time of releasing illusions and trying to gain some clarity about what it is that truly fulfills you. Or your sense of self and your financial reality are really intertwined this month. So it's grounding in some practical actions that are going to help you to navigate this transition. Now, the first thing that happens in the month is Venus retrograde, March 1st, 9 degrees of Aries. So this is a past financial opportunity or maybe some money-related issues that are going to resurface for you. You may be questioning your sense of value, right? Are you being compensated fairly for the job that you're doing? This is going to be a time to reflect on your financial patterns rather than to make any major investments or any major spending decisions. Venus is going to conjoin the sun at the end of March, so it'll bring this realization about what it is that truly brings you a level of security, right? But because Venus is retrograde, you're going to want to avoid making any sort of major financial commitments until April, if at all possible. Mercury will also be retrograde this month. That starts in the sign of Aries, so your second house still happens on the 15th, and then by the 29th, he'll be moving back into your first house of Pisces. So this is going to signal a period of reassessing how your mindset and your personal identity really influence your financial decisions. You might be rethinking your personal goals, your values, or maybe how those things are aligned with your financial life. I would definitely be cautious with any sort of financial agreements, right? Delays or miscommunications are definitely possible when we have Mercury retrograde. This is going to be an ideal time for you to review your personal priorities before you step into any sort of new chapter. So rather than rushing into any decisions, use this retrograde to observe patterns, to reflect on your self-worth, and to prepare for this new beginning that's really happening in April. Instead of stressing over financial uncertainty, take a structured approach now, right? Review your budget, clear out any unnecessary expenses, do your best to reflect on what it is that adds value to your life. Now, the lunar eclipse happens in Virgo on the 14th of March. This will be activating your 7th house of relationships, of contracts, and partnerships. Well, this eclipse is going to bring some clarity about personal and professional partnerships, about your commitments, and about your one-on-one interactions. This might be a relationship dynamic that shifts during this time, right? Ending possibly, or a deepening in terms of clarity. It could also be a business or a legal agreement that reaches some level of completion. Potentially, if it's not completing, it could be requiring some level of renegotiation. You may be recognizing where imbalances exist within your partnerships, and you might be taking a look at how you can correct those going forward. Now, since this eclipse is going to be opposite your first and second house, it's suggesting that relationships and financial themes will be closely intertwined. And those things are going to require you to balance your personal values with your external commitments. So if your relationship dynamics change during this time, I would be asking myself, does this connection really support my long-term growth and my stability or not? Now, the solar eclipse happens on the 29th of March, also in Aries. So it's going to be signaling this major reset in terms of your second house, which is income, values, and material security. Well, this eclipse is directly linked to the October 2024 eclipse that we had in Libra. So it's going to be showing you that past financial or possibly self-worth themes are now reaching some kind of a turning point. This might look like a new income source. It might be a new financial goal. Could just be a shift in your self-worth that emerges at this time. If you have been struggling with some sort of mindset in terms of money issues, this eclipse is really going to bring the opportunity for you to create some new financial habits for yourself. This is also a time for you to redefine how you measure your success and your security. This eclipse asks, are you really managing your resources in a way that truly supports what your long-term goals are? So Neptune is going to transition into Aries on March 30th, right? It marks this significant turning point for a Pisces rising, as he is the ruling planet and he's leaving your first house and moving into your second house, the house of finances, values, and self-worth. So this shift is going to invite you to redefine your sense of value and your material security from a more spiritual perspective. You may be drawn to earn more money. You may be more inspired in artistic ways. You could perhaps reevaluate what it is that truly brings you a sense of stability and fulfillment, right? Now, the issue that we all have with Neptune is that he can bring some level of confusion, right? Or some unrealistic expectations around these themes for you, money, and possessions. So it's going to be crucial that you balance whatever vision you have, right, with some level of practicality. Neptune is the planet that dissolves. He's also the planet of illusion and delusion, but dreams and creativity as well. So when he changes signs, you're going to feel that. This is going to be a time to align your financial goals with your spiritual values. So if something doesn't really resonate at a soul level anymore, it's not really worth the cost, right? Emotionally or material. That may be what you're thinking. Boundaries around money and possessions may be tested at this time. So ensure that generosity isn't taken for granted and that you are valuing your time, your energy, and your talents appropriately. Now, Neptune is a slow-moving planet, right? So he's only going to reach the first few degrees of Aries before he retrogrades back. But this is a bigger story because Saturn is the planet of structure and discipline, right? And by spring of 2026, he'll be approaching this 9 degrees of Aries point, right? So what's he going to be bringing? Well, structure and discipline. And for you, this will be a structured and disciplined approach to your finances and your self-worth. So that's what you're going to be building up to over the next year. So Neptune is going to move in and give you these sort of dreamy, this visionary, inspired ideas around these things, right? But Saturn's going to be moving through also over the next year saying we got to put some practical steps in place for this. So what might feel like an inspired vision now is going to later need to be grounded in some sort of reality, right? Built on some sort of solid foundation. So Saturn's influence over the next year is going to challenge you to take some responsibility for your financial health and to establish some long-term security through some consistent effort and some strategic planning. So this is going to be a time for you to create some sustainable income streams maybe, right? Or to develop some financial habits that really support your goals. Saturn is also going to test your self-worth, right? That's what he does. So it's going to ensure that you are not understating or overestimating your value at all. And it's also going to require you to embrace this opportunity that you have to solidify your relationship with money so that you can see money and income as an energetic exchange that really reflects your true worth. Now, this 2-year journey, right, is going to ask you to balance some spiritual inspiration with material responsibility. So setting up this stage so that you can have a more empowered and aligned self of sense-worth, so that by the time Saturn gets here in the spring of 2026, you're going to have this clear understanding of what it is that truly sustains you, right? That's both emotionally and financially. All right. Now, since we have heavy retrograde this month, if you feel like you need to move forward with some sort of action, I do want to call out some days that I think are better for that. Again, you make your own decisions. I think that permanent decisions are better delayed until April when the planets are moving direct, but let's just talk about what they might be. On the 8th of March, we're going to have the Sun trine Mars. So this could be a good day for some financial planning, maybe for reviewing your budget or possibly improving your self-confidence, right? Or at least giving that some good thought. From March 21st through March 25th, we'll have Sun, Venus, and Mercury all making sextile to Pluto. So this could be a transformative period where you are gaining some clarity on financial or maybe personal priorities. And then on the 30th, we'll have some clarity move through, right? Not 100%, not completely, don't know the whole picture, but it could be a day where there's a realization about a financial goal, about some level of self-worth, right? But if you can, I would wait until April before you make any major or big decisions. All right, for you, Pisces, this is going to be a month of stepping into a period of financial restructuring, of self-worth evaluation, and of some deeper clarity about what it is that truly provides security for you. Now, before making any drastic changes, take the time to assess your financial habits, your self-perception, and relationship dynamics that really influence your material stability. Now, if you have been feeling unclear in terms of money or self-worth, trust that clarity is coming to you, right? Use this month as the opportunity to review, refine, and to prepare for this stronger financial foundation that you're going to start to build in April. Good luck to you, Pisces. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your support. I thank you so much for being here. Have a great March.